Only 12 hours remain until I officially become Alexander's wife. 12 hours until our 10-year love, a lifetime romance, finally reaches its beautiful conclusion. This luxury penthouse on Park Avenue is the place where we plan to build our home. Tonight, everything is eerily silent. From the balcony, the lights of New York City glitter like a galaxy of fallen stars, but inside me, a strange unease is growing. I tell myself it's probably just the typical pre-wedding jitters every bride feels. The constant sound of running water comes from the bathroom. Alexander is in there. I smile and decide to check the suitcase one last time. It's the one he said he packed for our honeymoon in Bora Bora. I just want to make sure our passports and documents are in order. I've always been this meticulous, and Alexander always said he loved that organized side of me. The expensive designer suitcase rests by the closet. I unzip it to check the outer mesh pocket. Everything seems fine, but when I lift the fabric flap of the main compartment to check the hidden pocket underneath, my hand freezes. It's bulging unnaturally. My hands tremble as I touch a hard plastic folder carefully tucked beneath the fabric. My heart lurches. This isn't my suitcase. I have no right to go through his things, but something, a dark premonition, compels me to continue. I pull out the folder. The air around me feels thick. The first document is a copy of a marriage certificate. Groom, Alexander Thorne. I hold my breath. Bride, Chloe Lowell. Chloe Lowell. That name is so familiar. I search my memory, but my mind is a blank slate. And the date of registration, March 15th. 3 months ago. 3 months ago, I was with him, trying on wedding dresses. My throat feels dry. Beneath the marriage certificate, a black flash drive trembles in my hands. I plug it into the laptop that's open on the vanity. Hundreds of photos appear on the screen. No, these aren't keepsakes. It's a complete wedding album, shot by a professional photographer in Napa Valley. Alexander, with that same radiant smile, that same tender gaze, but his arms are around another woman. And Chloe, dressed in a pristine white wedding gown, leans shyly on his shoulder. Her happy smile is dazzling. They make a perfect couple. They look at each other with an intensity I thought he reserved only for me. It feels like someone is squeezing my chest. I quickly scroll through the photos, hoping it's a sick joke, a terrible mistake, but it's not. The third document is an itinerary for a honeymoon that has already been booked. The destination isn't Bora Bora, but Kyoto, Japan. Plane tickets, tickets for the Japanese bullet train, receipts from a hot springs resort, all in his name and hers. And then the last paper slips out, falling like a final stab that shatters what little sanity I have left. A pregnancy tracking report from a prestigious Upper East Side clinic. Patient's name, Chloe Lowell. Date of last consultation, 2 days ago. Result, 12-week twin pregnancy. Development completely normal, 12 weeks. That means the pregnancy began right around the time he married her. I collapse to my knees on the cold floor, the folder and its documents scattered at my feet. My ears are ringing. I can no longer hear the city's murmur. I no longer see the twinkling lights. I only see the happy smiles of Alexander and Chloe. I see those 2 little lives growing inside her, 10 years. My 10-year love story is a grand farce in which I was the only actor who didn't know the script. Suddenly, the water in the bathroom stops running. The lock clicks. He's coming out. I hurriedly gather the folder, stuff it back into the hidden compartment of the suitcase, and zip it shut. Just a second before the bathroom door opens, Alexander steps out with a towel around his waist, his hair still dripping. He looks relaxed and happy. Seeing me sitting on the floor by the suitcase, he smiles. "What are you doing down there with that spooked look on your face, my love? Nervous about tomorrow again?" He walks over and bends down to hug me. I pull away, forcing a smile. I was just checking the passports in case we forgot something." "Relax, Olivia. I've already taken care of everything," Alexander says, stroking my head, his smile still intact. "Come on, let's get to bed early. You need to be the most beautiful bride in the world tomorrow." The most beautiful bride. Those words now sound like an insult. I nod, faking exhaustion, and get into bed, pulling the comforter up to my face. Alexander doesn't notice anything strange, or maybe he just doesn't care. He turns off the light, and soon his steady breathing resonates beside me. But I can't sleep. In the darkness, my tears flow uncontrollably. Chloe Lowell. The name repeats in my head over and over. And then, the memories flood back. I remember now. Chloe, the young woman Alexander's family had taken in years ago. I remember Chloe was the daughter of his father's business partner who had gone bankrupt. The family was ruined. Chloe's father, in his despair, took his own life, leaving behind his wife and young daughter. Alexander's mother, Catherine, in an act of compassion, welcomed Chloe into their home, raising her as one of their own. Back then, I thought Catherine was a woman with a great heart. Chloe was a few years younger than us, always with a fragile, vulnerable air, always bowing her head timidly, calling Alexander Big Brother and me Olivia. I even felt sorry for her. When Alexander was cold, even distant with Chloe, I would scold him. I remember telling him once, "Don't be so hard on her, Alex. The poor girl has suffered enough." At that moment, he just frowned and gave me a strange look. "You don't understand, Olivia. That girl isn't as simple as you think. It's better if you keep your distance." I thought he was being overly suspicious. I thought he was a good man who knew how to maintain boundaries. I trusted him blindly. It turns out that coldness wasn't rejection. It was a sophisticated act to deceive me. He wasn't protecting me from Chloe. He was protecting Chloe from my attention. All the details start to fall into place with terrifying clarity. 3 months ago, Alexander told me he had to fly to Singapore urgently to sign a crucial contract, one that could decide the future of the entire company. He was gone for almost a week. It turns out that's when he took Chloe to the courthouse to get married. A month ago, he said he had to go supervise a new resort project in Napa Valley. The work was incredibly stressful. He even sent me photos of boring architectural blueprints. It turns out he was busy taking romantic wedding photos with his legal wife. For the honeymoon, he told me about the white sand beaches of Bora Bora, but he secretly booked a trip to Kyoto with Chloe. A perfect plan, a deception calculated down to the last detail. The man I have loved for 10 years, whom I trusted more than myself, turns out to be a master puppeteer. He was planning the wedding of the century with me, while simultaneously building a small family with another woman. The initial pain transforms into a chill that runs down my spine. I realize I haven't just been betrayed. I've been treated like a fool, a pawn on his chessboard. But why? If he already had Chloe, if he was expecting a child with her, why stage this wedding with me? Alexander's steady breathing beside me now sounds disgusting. The same breathing that for 10 years had given me a sense of peace now resembles the grinding sound of something crushing my heart. I lie motionless all night, my eyes wide open, staring at the ceiling, trying to find an answer to a single question. Why? If he loved Chloe, had a child with her, and had married her in secret, why keep me by his side? Why spend a fortune on such a lavish wedding? Did he plan to have me in the light and Chloe in the shadows? Or did he think I was so stupid that I would never find out? All the hypotheses made no sense until a distant memory flashed in my mind. My father, before he passed, was a highly trusted lawyer for Alexander's grandfather. His grandfather was an old tycoon, a sly old fox who had single-handedly built a powerful conglomerate. My father and the old man had a deep friendship that went beyond a simple professional relationship. I remember one time, after a few drinks, my father took my hand and said, "Olivia, I know you love Alexander very much, but remember, his family is complicated, especially his grandfather's will. The old man only trusts you." At the time, I laughed, thinking my father was worrying too much, but now, every one of his words resonates with stark clarity. My father told me that Alexander's grandfather didn't trust anyone, not even his own descendants. He feared that his life's work would be destroyed by incompetence or by bad marriages. Therefore, his will had a special clause. Alexander, his grandson and principal heir, had to legally marry me, Olivia Hayes, before his 30th birthday to inherit 100% of the group's shares. And tomorrow, our wedding day, is precisely Alexander's 30th birthday. I understand. I understand everything. This isn't about love. It's about hundreds of millions of dollars. My 10-year love story was just a condition in his inheritance contract. If he doesn't marry me, he loses everything. Worse, the will also specified that if it were discovered he had committed bigamy or had children out of wedlock before marrying me, the inheritance clause would also be immediately voided. A shiver runs down my spine. I'm not dealing with a simple cheater, but a con artist. He has committed bigamy. He needs this wedding with me to legalize his inheritance, to deceive the shareholders and the family board, and now I also understand why that folder appeared in the suitcase. It wasn't carelessness, it was a trap. Chloe, that weak little sister, left it there on purpose for me to find. What did she want me to do? She wanted me to go crazy with jealousy and cancel the wedding at the last minute. If I canceled the wedding, Alexander wouldn't meet the condition of the will and would lose his entire fortune. But at the same time, he would be free of me, and Chloe, as the only legal wife, could be with him openly. She was killing two birds with one stone. She wanted to destroy us both. They have underestimated me. They thought I would cry, despair, run to confront him, like I used to when we argued over trivial things in college. But they don't know that this ultimate betrayal hasn't broken me. It has awakened something terrifying inside me. Very carefully, I get out of bed. I walk barefoot on the cold oak floor. I go out to the living room. The city lights are still shining, but to me, they are nothing more than soulless specks. I pick up my phone. The screen lights up. I dial the number of Sarah, the director of the event planning company, the person who has worked directly with me for the past 6 months. It rings twice. On the other end, a sleepy voice answers. Hello? Olivia, what's wrong? Is it urgent? I take a deep breath, trying to make my voice sound normal, even a little cheerful. Sarah, sorry to bother you at this hour. I'm so nervous I can't sleep. An idea just came to me. I want to give Alexander a very big surprise. A surprise? At this hour, honey? Sarah sounds more awake now. Tomorrow's wedding, I say with fake enthusiasm, is still on as planned. Everything the same, but the commemorative video at the beginning. I want to change it a little. I just finished another video, more emotional, more meaningful. I'm sending you the file right now. Could you swap it for me? And please, don't let Alexander know anything, okay? After hanging up, I sit in the darkness of the living room. This multi-million-dollar penthouse, meant to be the symbol of Alexander's success and our future, now feels like nothing more than a gilded cage. I remember how happy I was when he proposed to me here, promising me a family filled with the laughter of children. It was all just a very well-produced play. Chloe wants me to cancel the wedding, but I won't. I will give her a gift to make her believe she has won. I look towards the vanity, where the signature dark blue velvet box with the wedding rings rests. They are a pair of diamond rings that Alexander boasted of having commissioned from a famous designer on Fifth Avenue, a design that took half a year. He said they symbolized our unique love. What a sweet lie. I pick up the velvet box, feeling the coldness of the metal and precious stones. I open a high-end, on-demand courier app, one that allows for minute-by-minute delivery scheduling. Recipient's address. I type in the address of the luxury apartment where Chloe lives. I know it because a utility bill once fell out of Alexander's pocket. When I asked, he dismissed it, saying it was a company apartment for important partners who needed privacy. Another lie. Delivery time, 9 a.m. Tomorrow, just when brides are starting their makeup. I leave the sender's note blank, but I open an anonymous messaging app and send a message to Chloe's number, a number I also managed to photograph from Alexander's contacts, saved as Little Sis. The message is brief. Only the one who deserves it can wear it. I want Chloe to receive these rings. I want her to believe I've discovered everything, that I'm heartbroken and have decided to surrender. I want her to believe I've admitted defeat, that I'm returning the symbol of our engagement. When a woman receives her rival's wedding rings just before the ceremony, what will she think? She will think she has won. She will confidently put on her wedding dress, slip on that ring, and come to the ceremony to claim the man who is hers. And I need her to do exactly that. Once everything is done, I return to the bedroom. The night is still long, but I can't waste another second crying. I open the laptop. I connect the flash drive filled with evidence of Alexander's betrayal. Hundreds of wedding photos, the marriage certificate, the plane tickets, and the twin pregnancy report. I don't just copy them, I organize them meticulously, inserting them into a presentation. I choose a soft soundtrack, the same one Alexander had chosen for our ceremony. I start the video with images of our 10 years together, innocent and pure memories. And then, suddenly, I insert the image of his marriage certificate with Chloe. Then, their happy wedding photos are interspersed with the passionate love messages he sent me on the very same dates. I work like a machine, without emotion, without hesitation. With every photo of Chloe I insert, my heart hardens a little more. And when I place the twin pregnancy ultrasound as the final image, I know that the surprise I've prepared for Alexander is complete. I upload the entire video file to a secure cloud server and send the link to Sarah with a note. Remember, Sarah, top secret. This is all my heart and soul. The dawn begins to break on the horizon. I've spent the night awake, but my mind is incredibly clear. I've erased all traces. I put the flash drive back in its place inside the folder and hide it again at the bottom of the suitcase as if no one had touched it. When the sun is fully up, I hear Alexander stirring in bed. I close my eyes, pretending to be fast asleep. He gets up carefully, probably to let me rest a little longer. The small noises in the kitchen indicate he's making breakfast. This man, even while deceiving me in the most cruel way, can perfectly play the role of a perfect fiancé. A moment later, he enters the bedroom with a small tray and gently wakes me. "My love, wake up and have breakfast. Today is your day. You have to eat well to be the most beautiful bride." I rub my eyes and smile. A smile I practiced all night. The smile of the happiest woman in the world. On the tray is a heart-shaped fried egg, my favorite, and freshly squeezed orange juice. "Thank you, honey," I say in a sweet voice. Alexander sits on the edge of the bed, watching me eat. His voice is full of false tenderness. "Eat up. I've been so busy lately, always on business trips, with little time to take care of you. After the wedding, on our honeymoon, I'll make it up to you. Make it up to me." Hearing those words from his mouth makes my stomach turn. He was busy. Yes, busy getting married to another woman, busy taking wedding photos with his new wife, busy taking care of her and her twin pregnancy. I feel a wave of nausea, but I force myself to swallow the fake heart-shaped egg. I look up and meet his gaze. I look closely at the man I have loved for 10 years. It's the same face, the same tender look. How can someone hide such a monstrous secret and remain so calm? He feels not an ounce of remorse, not a shred of guilt. "Honey," I say, trying to sound normal. "I'm a little nervous." "Nervous? Why?" He smiles, stroking my hair. "I'm scared. Scared I won't be the most beautiful bride. The wedding is so big, with so many important guests. I'm scared I won't do it right." Alexander laughs, a laugh full of confidence. "What nonsense. You're my bride. Of course you'll be the most beautiful. I'll take care of everything. You just have to look gorgeous and be happy." I rest my head on his shoulder one last time. Happiness. Since last night, that word has become the bitterest joke. I have eaten the breakfast of lies. I have to play my part to the end. I look at the man before me, the man I once thought was my whole world, the safe harbor of my life. Now he is nothing more than a stranger, a brilliant actor in a play directed by himself. And I, from being the romantic lead, will now become the director of this play's final act. I finish the last bite. I praise him for how delicious it was, for being so attentive, just as I have for the past 10 years. He still thinks I trust him, that I still love him. But this is the last time. I don't know if he noticed anything different in my smile. Probably not, because in his eyes right now, there is only the image of the immense fortune waiting for him after this ceremony is over. I get up and stretch. I'm going to take a shower. The hair and makeup team will be here soon. "Of course, my love," he smiles. I go into the bathroom and lock the door. I turn the faucet on full blast. The sound of the water drowns out the screams of my soul. I look at myself in the mirror. My eyes are swollen from a sleepless night, but my gaze is cold, determined, terrifying. At 8 a.m., right on schedule, the doorbell rings. The makeup artist and his team have arrived. Alexander opens the door, greeting them enthusiastically. I walk out of the bathroom, wrapped in a towel, and smile at everyone. "Olivia, you look beautiful," the young makeup assistant exclaims. I smile faintly. I know I have to get out of here immediately. I can't bear to sit for hours having my face painted, faking joy in front of Alexander. I can't share the same space with him for another minute. I need a safe place, a place where I can breathe and prepare the final steps. I turn to Alexander, using a whimsical tone, that of a bride on the verge of her wedding. "Alexander." "Yes, my love?" He turns with that same radiant smile. "I'm so nervous," I say, gripping the towel tightly. "With so many people here, I can't concentrate. What if I go to the hotel and get ready there?" Alexander frowns slightly. "The hotel? Why? It's more comfortable here." "No." I shake my head. "I want to give you a surprise. I want to keep my bridal look a secret until the very last moment. I want you to be the most surprised person of all when I walk down the aisle." I emphasize the words surprised and of all. I've booked a suite at the hotel right next to the venue. It's spacious. It has beautiful light. The photos will be even better there. I'm going there with the team now. I've already had my dress sent over. And don't you dare come. I forbid it, or I'll be really mad. I see a flicker of surprise in Alexander's eyes, followed immediately by clear relief. I can read his thoughts. He's breathing a sigh of relief. He was probably worried too, worried that Chloe might show up at this very apartment to make a scene. The fact that I'm disappearing on my own to another location, a public and better protected place, is something he couldn't have wished for more. It makes it easier for him to control the situation here, and prevents me from running into Chloe if she decides to come. He's creating a false safety zone for me, not knowing he has just released his prey from its cage. "All right, my love," he laughs heartily and comes to hug me. "Anything to make you happy. Today, whatever you want, you get." He kisses my forehead, a kiss that feels cold to the bone. I try not to flinch. "Then I'm leaving now. You get ready here and go to the venue early," I say hurriedly, pulling away from his embrace. I turn to the makeup team. "Sorry for the trouble. We're going to the hotel. My things are in the other room. Can you help me carry them?" I quickly change into a simple dress and grab the purse I prepared last night. Inside, I only have my phone, wallet, passport, and a small external hard drive with all the evidence. I walk out the door, waving goodbye to Alexander. "See you at the altar, my love." "Yes, see you at the altar. I love you," he replies, waving back with a satisfied smile. The heavy metal elevator door closes slowly, hiding his fake smile and guilty eyes. As soon as the door shuts, the smile on my face vanishes. I arrive at the luxury hotel suite, just steps away from the wedding venue. The room is enormous, with floor-to-ceiling windows offering a panoramic view of the city. The makeup team quickly sets up their tools. The smell of cosmetics, the hum of the hairdryer, it should all evoke the excitement of a bride, but my heart feels only a glacial calm. Just as I sit in the makeup chair, my phone, my regular number, starts to vibrate. It's my future mother-in-law, Catherine. "Hello, Catherine," I answer, trying to keep my voice normal. "Olivia, where are you?" Catherine's voice on the other end sounds urgent, rushed, very different from her usual calm demeanor. "I'm at the hotel getting ready. What's wrong? Which room? Send me the address right now. I need to talk to you alone for a moment. Quickly." She speaks as if giving an order and hangs up abruptly before I can respond. I frown. She's starting her act too. I text her the room number and turn to the makeup artist. "Excuse me, could you all go for a coffee for about 15 minutes? My mother-in-law wants to speak with me privately." Everyone kindly agrees. The room falls silent again. Less than 10 minutes later, the doorbell rings. Catherine enters. She isn't wearing the elegant mother-of-the-groom dress I helped her choose, but an expensive silk loungewear set. Her face is lightly made up, but her eyes betray an uncontainable anxiety. She slams the door shut and quickly comes over to grab my hand. Her hand is ice cold. "Oh, Olivia dear, I'm so worried. I couldn't sleep a wink last night. I kept having a bad feeling. I had to come see how you were." I look at the woman I once respected, whom I considered my second mother. She's playing her part perfectly. She knows everything. She knows about Chloe, about the pregnancy. But here she is, holding my hand and telling me she's worried. Catherine pulls an old, dark, red brocade box from her purse. She opens it. Inside is a sapphire bracelet, a deep, exquisite color, of incalculable value. With trembling hands, she fastens it on my wrist. The bracelet is icy against my skin. This was Alexander's grandmother's bracelet, Olivia. I've kept it for decades, waiting for this day to give it to my son's wife. With this on, you are officially part of the Thorne family. I look at the sapphire bracelet. It's beautiful, but it feels as heavy as handcuffs. I remain silent, waiting to see what else she has to say. Catherine grabs both my hands, lowers her voice, adopting a grave and mysterious tone. Olivia, I know you're a sensible girl. You and Alexander have loved each other since you were children. Your love is deep. But men, you know, especially before such an important day, they have a lot of pressure, a lot of complicated relationships. She pauses and looks me straight in the eye, pronouncing each word carefully. Later, at the ceremony, no matter what happens, no matter what you hear or what you see, you have to trust Alexander blindly. Do you hear me? Everything he does for the good of this family. She squeezes my hands tightly. Promise me, dear. The Thorne family is so lucky to have a daughter-in-law like you. Don't let any outsider ruin this day for us. I understand. This isn't advice. It's a warning, a preparation. She fears Chloe will come and make a scene, and she's come to give me a tranquilizer in advance so that no matter what I see, I'll grit my teeth and go through with the wedding so her son can receive his inheritance. Slowly, I pull my hands from hers, look up, and smile the sweetest smile of an obedient daughter-in-law. I understand, Catherine. Don't worry. I won't disappoint you. No matter what happens, I will make sure today is perfect. Catherine sighs in relief, as if a great weight has been lifted from her shoulders. Good, very good. I trust you. She stands up hurriedly, smoothing her clothes. Well, I'm going to get ready. You get your makeup done too. Don't be late. She leaves as quickly as she arrived. As soon as the door closes, the smile vanishes from my face. I take off the sapphire bracelet and leave it on the table. I call the team back in. The makeup artist begins his work. I close my eyes and let my face be painted. I try to keep my mind blank. The smell of makeup, the soft brush of bristles on my skin. I am like a wooden doll, letting myself be moved. Much later, when it was all over, I learned that at the very moment Catherine was handing me that icy bracelet, in another luxury apartment not far away, another scene of the drama was reaching its climax. Exactly at 9 a.m., the doorbell of Chloe's apartment rings. She, having spent a sleepless night torn between anxiety and expectation, rushes to open it. A courier hands her a dark blue velvet box, the exact same kind used by the brand of wedding rings Alexander had chosen. Inside, the pair of diamond rings sparkles. Immediately after, Chloe's phone receives the anonymous message I had sent. Only the one who deserves it can wear it. Chloe is stunned. According to what Sarah later investigated, Chloe instantly believed that I had found out everything. She believed I was too hurt and humiliated and had decided to run away. This gift was my surrender, my return of the engagement. Victory was within her grasp. The first thing Chloe did was call Alexander. She wanted to confirm her triumph. But at that hour, Alexander was busy greeting important guests in the lobby. He couldn't answer. The unanswered call was, for Chloe, the clearest confirmation. Alexander was in a panic because the bride had fled. This was her chance. Sarah told me that Chloe didn't waste a second. She immediately called Sarah herself, the wedding planner. Chloe's voice sounded full of panic and compassion. Sarah, it's Chloe. Something terrible has happened. Olivia found out about Alexander and me. She's gone. The wedding can't be canceled. The guests are all very important people, and then there's the grandfather's will. If Alexander loses the inheritance, he'll be ruined. Chloe cried into the phone, playing the part of the victim perfectly. And Sarah, whom I had carefully instructed the night before, also played her part. She yelled into the phone, loud enough for Chloe to believe it all. Oh my God, really? We're doomed. What do we do now? The guests are already here. Sarah, Chloe rushed. I'll be the stand-in bride. I can't let Alexander lose everything. I'm already on my way. I have a wedding dress too. Please, get everything ready for me. It'll be like I'm saving Alexander. Okay, Chloe, Sarah replied with a pressing voice. Come right away. I'll take care of everything. The call ended. Chloe breathed a sigh of relief. She had achieved her goal. Sarah told me that Chloe opened her closet. There hung a spectacular wedding dress, a dress she had secretly commissioned long ago, waiting for this day. She put on the dress, did her own makeup meticulously, and finally slipped on the diamond ring I had sent her, the real bride's ring, on her ring finger. Chloe looked at herself in the mirror, a victorious smile on her lips. She didn't know that the dress, the ring, and that smile were all part of my plan. I open my eyes. The makeup artist is finished. Olivia, you look incredible, the young assistant exclaims. I look at myself in the mirror. A perfectly made-up face, beautiful but cold. Eyes without a single ripple of emotion. I'm not wearing a wedding dress. I'm still in my simple street dress. I stand up and look at the clock. 10 a.m. The guest reception has begun. I know this because from my suite, my phone starts vibrating non-stop. It's Alexander. The name My Love flashes on the screen, a name I saved 10 years ago. Now, seeing it, I only feel irony. I don't answer. I let it ring. Each tone is like an urgent, desperate call. The phone vibrates on the glass table, creating a shrill sound. He calls again and again. 4, 5 calls. Since I'm not answering, the phone starts buzzing non-stop with messages. Olivia, where are you? Why aren't you answering? The guests are already arriving. I read the messages but don't reply. I can imagine his face right now. Confusion, worry, and maybe a little fear. Fear that his plan will fail. Another message arrives. Are you mad about something? Answer me. Don't joke around, Olivia. Today is our big day. Our big day. I feel an immense bitterness. I pick up the phone, my fingers gliding over the keyboard. After 10 years together, I know him too well. He is an arrogant man. He needs reassurance that everything is still under control. I type a message with the same capricious tone of an angry bride. I'm preparing the biggest surprise of your life. Don't look for me. I'll show up on my own. I guarantee you'll never forget it. I hit send. A few seconds later, the double blue checkmark appears. He has read it instantly, and instantly, his reply comes. I can feel the relief in every word. A surprise. You almost gave me a heart attack. I have a surprise for you too. I love you. Hurry up. Everyone is waiting. I love you. 3 words. Even at this moment, he can type them so easily. He thinks I'm just mad about something trivial, that I'm still the lovesick fool who runs after him. He has no idea. The surprise I'm talking about is, in fact, a gift he will never forget for the rest of his life. I stare at the words I love you on the screen. This is the last time. I don't reply again. I calmly turn off the phone. Then I open the SIM card slot. The SIM card that has been with me for 10 years, that holds so many of our messages, so many of our calls. I take it between 2 fingers and snap it in half. I drop the 2 pieces into a glass of water on the table. They sink slowly to the bottom. All communication is officially severed. I am no longer Olivia, Alexander Thorne's fiancée. I am Olivia, a free woman. I pick up the burner phone I had prepared. A new phone, a new SIM card, with only one contact. My best friend, who is also at the wedding as a guest. It's 11 a.m. I'm not at the ceremony. I'm sitting in a posh cafe on the hotel rooftop, directly across from the wedding venue. From my secluded table, I can see the magnificent lobby below, where guests are pouring in, but I don't need to see it with my own eyes. On my burner phone, I open a secret live stream link. The screen lights up. It's the view from my friend's camera. She's seated in a discreet spot near the sound booth, exactly as we had planned. The ballroom is as splendid as I had designed it myself. Imported white flowers, my favorite, form grand arrangements that cover the stage, creating the feeling of a winter fairy tale garden. dazzling crystal chandeliers, and 500 guests. I scan the screen, recognizing them. They are not our close friends. They are members of the corporation's board of directors, important business partners from all over, key shareholders who hold the deciding vote on Alexander's future. This is not a wedding, it's a display of power. The presentation of the heir. My friend's camera pans to the stage. There stands Alexander Thorne, elegant in a bespoke tuxedo, a happy and confident smile on his face. But I, who have been by his side for 10 years, recognize the tension in the way he constantly adjusts his bow tie. He keeps looking towards the main entrance where the bride should enter. Then he looks towards the front row. Catherine is sitting there in a burgundy mother-of-the-groom dress, but her face is rigid. Her hands are clenched tightly on her designer purse. Mother and son are nervous, not because they are waiting for the bride, but for the moment the will takes effect. A famous MC takes the stage. His voice booms. A warm welcome to all our distinguished guests and partners who have come to celebrate the big day of the groom, Mr. Alexander Thorne, and the bride, Miss Olivia Hayes. Applause rings out. My friend sends me a text. He just asked if I had seen you. I told him you were preparing a big surprise. He smiled, satisfied. I smile. The MC continues. They have shared a 10-year journey of love, a modern-day fairy tale. And now, before we welcome our beautiful bride, we invite you to turn your attention to the giant LED screen behind me to watch a very special video that captures the most memorable moments of their love story. My friend's camera zooms in on Alexander's face. He takes a deep breath, puffs out his chest, adjusts his jacket. He puts on his most radiant smile, the one that once made me fall in love, ready to receive the congratulations and admiring glances of those 500 people. He looks up at the 100-foot screen behind him, waiting. The lights in the hall dim, leaving only a spotlight on the screen. A soft melody begins to play, the one I had chosen. I lift my teacup and take a deep breath. I send my friend a text. Start. I take a sip of chamomile tea. The taste is slightly bitter, but it helps me maintain a strange calm. On my phone screen, my friend's camera continues to transmit a clear feed. The lights in the hall are off. The soft melody resonates. Yes, it's the music I chose. The giant 100-foot LED screen behind Alexander lights up. The first images are a photo of us when we were 7, 2 kids with dirty faces in front of the school. Photos from our 10 years of dating follow. Adolescence in high school uniforms, naive college days, our first trips together after graduation. Through the screen, I see Alexander's smile, a smile of satisfaction and pride. He is immersed in his perfect script. He thinks this is the sweet surprise video I prepared. I see him glance at the front row, where important shareholders are nodding in approval. A fairy tale love story, perfect for solidifying the heir's position. Murmurs of admiration begin to spread. Such a rare love these days. The girl is beautiful and thoughtful. I smile. The main course is about to be served. The music, which was at its peak, suddenly changes tone and stops. The screen goes black for a second. I hear a murmur of concern among the guests. Alexander's smile freezes. He turns to look at the screen, then glares at the tech booth with a frown. He probably thinks it's a technical glitch. And then the screen lights up again. It's not a photo of our memories, but a full-sized wedding photo. Alexander, in a black tuxedo, has his arm around the waist of another woman in a white wedding dress. The background is the dreamlike landscape of Napa Valley. The entire hall falls silent, immediately followed by an eruption of astonished whispers. Who is that? Did they play the wrong video? That's not the bride, is it? My friend's camera focuses on Alexander. His smile is gone. He is petrified, his face pale, his eyes wide, fixed on the screen. He takes a step back, unconsciously shaking his head. No, it's not a mistake, my dear, I murmur to myself. I see Catherine in the front row, half rising from her seat, her hands gripping the back of the chair in front of her. Her face has lost all color. The video doesn't stop. It continues to project a series of wedding photos, Alexander and Chloe kissing passionately by a vineyard, Alexander lifting Chloe in his arms in a meadow. Hundreds of photos capturing every moment of their happiness. A happiness built on my deception. "My God, isn't that Chloe the Thorns ward?" a voice exclaims, loud enough for the camera to pick up. Alexander panics. He turns to the tech booth, raising his hand and shouting, "Stop it! Turn that off! Turn it off now!" But his voice is drowned out by the music. A new melody begins. A sad, somber melody, like a requiem for my 10 years of love. Alexander's shouts are useless. My friend, following my instructions, has had someone lock the door to the sound and light control room. Even if Alexander pounds on the door, no one can intervene. The giant LED screen continues its work, relentlessly revealing the truth. After the romantic series of wedding photos, the screen changes to a white background, and then a crisp scan of the marriage certificate appears. Groom, Alexander Thorne. Bride, Chloe Lowell. Date of registration, 3 months ago. The red seal of the county clerk's office is like a bloodstain striking the eyes of the 500 guests. If before there were murmurs, now the hall is in chaos. My God, he married her? Seriously, I can't believe it. And today's wedding, what is it? This is bigamy. This kid is insane. He's mocking the law and all of us. I clearly hear an elderly shareholder, whom I used to call Uncle James, slam his fist on the table. A scandal, an unacceptable scandal. What kind of business does this family conduct? My friend's camera pans back to Alexander. He is no longer shouting, he is trembling. He stumbles backward, bumping into the arrangements of white flowers, causing the delicate petals to fall onto his expensive tuxedo. He looks at his mother. Catherine tries to stand, but her legs tremble and she collapses back into her seat. The video is not over yet. Next screen, the honeymoon itinerary in Japan, round-trip business class plane tickets, in the names of Alexander Thorne and Chloe Lowell. Invoices from a luxury hot springs resort in Hakone. Bullet train tickets. All the evidence of the business trip to Singapore he lied to me about. I remember those nights alone at home, worrying about him, sending him messages to take care of himself abroad. Meanwhile, he was holding his new wife, soaking in hot springs, watching the cherry blossoms. A bitter taste rises in my throat. So this was his hard work, this was his sacrifice for the company. I admired him for it. I felt lucky to love such a talented, ambitious, and hardworking man. It turns out I was just a fool, painting a perfect model in my mind and drowning in it. The contempt I feel now is greater than the pain. I despise him, I despise Catherine, and I despise Chloe. But most of all, I despise myself for these last 10 years. The guests, in their elegant suits and expensive jewelry, are no longer maintaining their composure. They are on their feet. A sea of phones shot up, pointing directly at the stage, recording the entire humiliating scene. They are shareholders. They are partners. They don't just see a love scandal. They see the fall of an heir. They see business deception. If Alexander can deceive the woman he has been with for 10 years, he can also deceive them. Trust, the most valuable commodity in business, has been shattered. The screen goes dark again. The murmurs in the hall are so loud, they drown out the somber background music. People think the show is over, but no, I still have my final gift. After a few seconds of deathly silence, the screen lights up again. This time there are no wedding photos or plane tickets, just a single sheet of paper, magnified to the maximum. It's an ultrasound report from an international clinic. Patient's name, Chloe Lowell. And the final conclusion, which I have deliberately highlighted with a bright red circle, ultrasound result, twin pregnancy, gestational age, 12 weeks, normal development. If the marriage certificate was a bomb, the twin pregnancy report is a nuclear explosion. The 500 guests hold their breath in unison, a complete, heavy silence that I can feel through the live stream. Twins, not just one child, but twins. He already had heirs with another woman before marrying me. Through my friend's camera, I see Alexander. He is no longer trembling, he is just standing there, motionless. He stares at the words twin pregnancy on the screen. His face is drained of blood. I see Catherine. She has fainted. People around her are trying to revive her. And then, just as planned, the music stops completely. In that deadly silence, my voice resonates clear, calm, and amplified by the ballroom's expensive sound system. Congratulations, Alexander Thorne. My voice, The voice he has heard for 10 years is now as cold as a blade. This gift, I pause. I hope you like it. As soon as I finish speaking, the giant LED screen turns off. Immediately, the hall erupts into absolute chaos. Shouts, insults, the noise of overturned chairs and tables. Everyone is on their feet. Phones held up, recording Alexander, recording the fainted Catherine, recording the shareholders pounding the tables with faces purple with rage. My friend sends me a text with trembling letters. Olivia, it's over. This is chaos. Catherine fainted. The shareholders are calling their lawyers. I watch the scene. I feel no satisfaction, no victory, only an infinite emptiness. My 10 years of youth have been buried with great pomp in the presence of 500 witnesses. Suddenly, my friend's camera shakes violently. It quickly pans to the main entrance of the ballroom. She screams in a voice message. "Oh my God, Olivia! Chloe, she really came. She's here in the wedding dress." At that very moment, in the eye of the hurricane, as Alexander stands like a broken statue on the stage and Catherine is being attended to, the main doors of the ballroom, the ones I was supposed to enter through, swing wide open. There stands Chloe, under an arch of white flowers, resplendent in an expensive strapless wedding gown, her hair in a high bun perfectly made up, and on her ring finger shines the very same diamond ring I sent her. She arrives like a queen, ascending to the podium of glory. Through the live stream, I see Chloe take a deep breath. She doesn't see the chaos inside. She doesn't see the horrified faces of the guests. She only sees her man standing on the stage. She probably arrived just after the video ended. She hears the uproar and thinks it's because of my escape, just as she planned. She thinks this is her moment, the moment to come out and rescue Alexander from the scandal and claim her place. She received the ring. She received Sarah's confirmation over the phone. She is 100% sure that I am the loser. With the most radiant smile, the smile of a victor, Chloe begins to walk down the white petal-strewn aisle. 500 pairs of eyes, horrified by the bigamy scandal, now turn to her. Their gazes are not of admiration, but of curiosity, contempt, and even pity. "My God, it's her," someone exclaims. "The girl from the video, the pregnant one. The nerve to come here." The murmurs start again, louder than before. Chloe's smile begins to freeze. She realizes something is wrong. Why is everyone looking at her like that? Why is no one clapping? And why is Alexander, her man, looking at her with those eyes? It's not the look of relief of someone who has been saved. It is a look of hatred. The look of a cornered beast seeing the one who pushed it into the abyss. But Chloe is already halfway down the aisle. She can't turn back. She keeps trying to smile. Her voice trembles, but she forces herself to speak loudly. "Alexander, I'm here. I came." She still thinks I fled and she has come to take my place. Alexander looks at her, his legal wife, the mother of his twins, the person who has brought him to ruin. Chloe continues to walk onto the stage, extending her hand towards Alexander with a dramatic voice, as if from a soap opera. "Alexander, don't be afraid. I'm here. I am your true wife." She has barely finished speaking when the hall explodes. I remain motionless in the rooftop cafe. Through the phone screen, the scene in the ballroom resembles the worst kind of tragicomedy. Chloe's line, "I am your true wife," echoes shrilly through the speakers. It's like a lit match thrown into a powder keg named Alexander. I see him, the man I loved for 10 years, the one who had never raised his voice at me. Now his face is disfigured by rage, humiliation, the collapse of his inheritance plan, the shameful exposure in front of 500 people. It all builds up. And Chloe, his legal wife, the mother of his twins, chooses this precise moment to appear, like the final living proof, annihilating any hope of denial. He doesn't look at her with the eyes of a husband, but with those of an enemy. "Get out." I can't hear the word clearly due to the camera's distance, but I read his lips. A single word, spat between clenched teeth. Chloe is stunned. She had probably imagined Alexander would rush to embrace her, would point at me if I were there, and declare her his true love. She did not expect to receive that word. "Alexander," she stammers, still trying to get closer. "I came to help you. Olivia is gone." I said, "Get out!" This time I hear the roar, and then something happens that I would never have dared to imagine in 10 years. Alexander, the elegant heir, my tender man, raises his hand. Slap. The sound rings out clear and sharp, silencing the crowd's murmur. The slap is so hard that Chloe's head snaps to the side. She loses her balance. The diamond ring I sent her flies off her finger, rolling across the stage. But Alexander doesn't stop. Rage has turned him into a beast. He shoves Chloe hard, the woman carrying his twins. "You conniving bitch! You did this! You ruined me!" Chloe is wearing high heels. The stage, nearly 6 feet high, is decorated with flowers and is very slippery. Alexander's push is too strong. I see Chloe lose her balance, stumble backward, and suddenly, her foot gives way. She tumbles off the stage. Her body hits the speakers and sound equipment set up just below. There's a dull thud, followed by screams from the guests in the front row. Everything seems to stop for a second. Chloe lies motionless on the marble floor, her exquisite white wedding dress now rumpled and dirty. And then, under the white fabric, a trickle of red blood begins to spread, slow but unmistakable. Blood. She's bleeding. Call an ambulance, quick. She's pregnant. My God, he's killed her. The ballroom truly explodes. Screams, phone calls, camera flashes firing nonstop. They are no longer wedding guests. They are witnesses to a tragedy. My friend's camera focuses on Alexander. He stands on the stage, looking down at the pool of blood, looking at his legal wife and his unborn children. His face is empty of all emotion. I slowly turn off the live stream screen. The chaos of the hall, the screams, the image of the pool of blood, it all disappears as the phone screen goes dark. The space around me becomes strangely silent. The rooftop cafe continues with its soft jazz music. The wind brushes my hair. I sit for a little while longer, watching the street below. The traffic flows normally. The city keeps running. It doesn't stop for anyone's tragedy, and I, too, must go on with my life. I call the waiter and pay for the now cold chamomile tea. I pick up my small carry-on suitcase and step into the elevator. No one recognizes me. The woman in a simple dress and sunglasses is actually the bride of the disastrous wedding taking place in the building next door. I had booked a car in advance. A sleek black car is waiting for me at the hotel's back exit. I get in. The car blends silently into the traffic. The driver takes me to JFK Airport. I had bought the ticket a week ago with my passport, using a different bank account that Alexander knew nothing about. I checked in online. It took only a few minutes to get through security. I enter the VIP lounge. Here, everything is calm. Whispered conversations, the rustle of magazine pages, the soft clinking of cups. An absolute contrast to the scene I just witnessed. A cruel contrast between hell and peace. I find a secluded corner and sit down. The burner phone vibrates. A message from my friend. "Olivia, have you left yet?" The ambulance took Chloe. It looks serious. Alexander was frozen for a while and then ran out. He didn't go with the ambulance. He left his fainted mother there. He ran to the parking garage and drove off like a madman. "Be careful. I'm afraid he's coming to look for you." I read the message without a flutter in my heart. Look for me? For what? To blame me for what he has caused. I take a deep breath. I remember the last 10 years. I lived like a worker bee, building what I called our home. I turned down better career opportunities because Alexander said he didn't want me to work so much. I put my dream of studying abroad on hold because he said he didn't want a long-distance relationship. I sacrificed. I endured. I trusted blindly. I thought a childhood love was the most enduring. It turns out it's also the most fragile because it's built on habit, not respect. The large screen in the departure lounge announces that my flight to Paris is about to board. The 12:30 p.m. flight. I stand up and grab my suitcase. I don't look back. I walk towards the gate, where a new life awaits me. 10 years of youth, 10 years of love and deceit. I give myself permission to leave it all behind in this city. I wasn't there. I wasn't there to witness the next scene. I was in the sky, flying through the clouds to the other side of the world. Everything that happened in the penthouse was what my friend told me later. She said that Alexander drove like a maniac. He left Chloe at the hospital, his fainted mother at the ceremony, the 500 guests, and the disastrous mess of his family. He had only one thought: to find me. Perhaps he thought I was at home crying, packing my bags, waiting for him to confront me, to scream at him. He still thought I was the same weak fool from 10 years ago, that with a few caresses and apologies, everything would go back to normal. He ran up to the penthouse, unlocked the door with his key, and froze. The apartment was completely empty. Not the emptiness of a new, unfurnished home, but the emptiness of a place that has been completely cleared out. The expensive Italian designer sofa, gone. The 100-inch curved television, gone. The walnut dining table, gone. All my designer clothes in the walk-in closet, gone. The photos of our memories hanging in the hallway, gone. Even in the bathroom, my pink toothbrush, the half-used tube of toothpaste, my favorite shower gel, all gone. The enormous apartment only echoed with the sound of his own ragged breathing. Not a trace of me remained, as if I had never existed in that place. My friend told me that Alexander couldn't believe his eyes. He ran from room to room. The living room, the bedroom, the study all empty. Only his own solitary, out-of-place furniture remained. It was then that he saw a small note stuck to the refrigerator. It was an invoice from a luxury moving and storage company. Date of service, 3 days ago. At that moment, he realized, this wasn't a fit of anger, not a rash decision after discovering the secret last night. This was a plan. A meticulously prepared plan. He roared a roar, not of anger, but of fear. For the first time in his life, the man who always believed he had everything under control realized he had been played from the beginning. He realized I knew, had known for a long time. My silence over the past few days, my smile that morning, the heart-shaped breakfast, the goodbye in the elevator, it was all part of the play. He thought he was the director, but it turned out he was just an actor in my show. My friend told me that after realizing the harsh reality, Alexander lost his composure. He began to tear the house apart, hoping to find something, anything, a letter, a note, a trace of me. He opened every drawer, lifted every mattress, looked in every corner, but there was nothing. I had cleaned everything too well. I hired an industrial cleaning service. They had scrubbed the apartment to the point where not even my familiar perfume lingered, only the cold smell of disinfectant. He collapsed in the middle of the empty living room, screaming my name desperately. And then he saw it. On the glass coffee table, where just a few hours earlier he had watched me tenderly as I ate my last breakfast, one thing remained. A photo. Not a wedding photo or one from a luxury trip. It was our first photo together. A picture taken in Charleston 10 years ago, when we were just 19 or 20 zero-year-old students. In the photo, I was smiling brightly, my eyes squinting in the sunset, and he had his arm around my shoulders with a naive, proud smile. That photo was once my treasure, the proof of a pure love. But now, the photo was torn in half. Not a clean cut with scissors, but a jagged, violent manual tear, as if the person who tore it had used all their strength. The half, with my image, was gone. The other half remained on the table. Only Alexander was left with his naive smile, hugging an empty space. My friend said Alexander picked up that half photo with trembling hands. He stared at the empty space beside him. He didn't cry. He just started to laugh. A crazed, hoarse laugh that echoed through the empty apartment. He understood. I hadn't just left, hadn't just abandoned him. I had erased him from 10 years of my life. I had torn up the past. The half that belonged to me, I took with me. The half that belonged to him, I returned. I gave him back his falsehood, his emptiness, and a future where I would never be. Alexander clenched the half photo so tightly his knuckles turned white, and then he buried his face on the table. His broad shoulders, the shoulders I once thought were my world, began to shake violently. As Alexander fell apart next to the torn photo, I was thousands of miles away on a flight of over 10 hours. I huddled under the thin business-class blanket, trying to sleep, but I couldn't. The image of Chloe falling, the pool of blood on the marble floor, haunted me. I felt no satisfaction, only fear. Fear of Alexander's madness, and fear of the cruelty of my own plan. Everything that happened after my departure was what my friend told me. After I settled in Paris, she said that Alexander didn't stay broken in the empty apartment for long. As he was drowning in his despair, he received 2 phone calls that officially closed all the doors to his life. The first was from the hospital. An emergency room nurse informed him in a cold voice, "Are you a relative of the patient Chloe Lowell? The patient has suffered severe trauma from a fall. We did everything we could, but we were unable to save the pregnancy. Both fetuses have been lost. The patient has also lost a lot of blood and is in critical condition. Please come to handle the paperwork immediately." My friend said Alexander just listened, his hand trembling. He didn't say a word, just hung up. The twins, the weapon he had used to deceive me and that Chloe had used to tie him down, were no more. He had just lost his children because of his own cruel push. But the tragedy didn't end there. He had barely processed the news when the phone rang again. This time it was an unknown but formal number. It was from the law firm that managed his grandfather's will. The family's senior partner, an older man I also knew, informed him briefly, without any emotion in his voice. "Mr. Thorne, I am calling to inform you, based on the events that occurred at the celebration this morning, in the presence of the entire board of directors and shareholders, you have seriously violated the clauses of the late chairman's will." Alexander seemed to react then. He growled in a hoarse voice, "What are you talking about?" The lawyer continued calmly. "The will clearly states that you must legally marry Miss Olivia Hayes before your 30th birthday. Today is your 30th birthday. However, your act of bigamy, being legally married to Miss Chloe Lowell, has been exposed. At the same time, you have caused a severe moral scandal that directly affects the honor and brand value of the corporation, according to the clause. A clause, by the way, that Miss Hayes's father advised on. We are forced to nullify your right of inheritance." "Nullify?" Alexander screamed. "That is correct, sir. As of this moment, your entire controlling stake in the corporation will be transferred to a charitable trust, as was the late chairman's wish. You are no longer the majority shareholder. We are sorry." The lawyer hung up. Alexander collapsed onto the floor of the empty apartment. For 10 years, he had schemed, he had acted, he had deceived me. All for this day. He wanted it all, the family fortune, me as a perfect trophy wife, and Chloe as a secret mistress with children. But in a single morning, in just a few hours, he lost me, he lost his twins, and he lost his entire fortune. He lost his past, his future, and his present. He was left with nothing but half a torn photo in his hand. I arrived in Paris one afternoon. The city greeted me with a cold drizzle. I dragged my suitcase down a cobblestone street, feeling small and lost. But strangely, I didn't feel afraid. It was the first time in 10 years that I was breathing my own air. I was free. In the following days, I learned how desperate Alexander had been. After realizing he had lost everything, he didn't go to the hospital to see Chloe, nor did he go to the company to fix the disaster. He abandoned everything. In his mind, only one obsession remained: to find me. Perhaps it was no longer love, but the resentment of a loser. He couldn't accept that I, the woman he always considered weak and dependent, had dealt him such a fatal blow. He had to find me to confront me, to vent, or maybe to prove he could still control me. He used his last connections, the little power he had left before the news of his disinheritance spread. He called the head of airport security, friends at airlines, asking them to check the passenger lists of all flights that left the city that day. He believed I couldn't have gone far, that I was hiding somewhere in the country, maybe in my hometown or some tourist city, crying. And then the information came to him, but that information only drove him crazier. His contacts informed him in a confused voice, "Mr. Thorne, it's very strange. The system shows that Miss Hayes's passport has tickets for 10 different flights, all departing today." Alexander roared. 10 flights? To where? One to Miami, another to Chicago, another to Aspen. Also a train ticket to Boston, a flight to Lisbon, another to Rome. Alexander didn't need to hear more. He understood. I had created too dense a smokescreen. 10 tickets, 10 different destinations, paid for with 10 different virtual cards. He couldn't know which flight I had actually boarded. He couldn't know where in the world I was. I had used the very money he had given me for the wedding preparations to buy my freedom. My friend told me that Alexander smashed his phone. He realized I hadn't just left, I had erased myself from the map. I had planned everything long ago. He had been led into a chess game where he was checkmated from the very first move. His pursuit hit a dead end. He was powerless. And for someone as arrogant as Alexander, powerlessness is the cruelest punishment. In Paris, I cut off all contact. I got a new phone number. I only kept in touch with my friend through a secure app. The first days of winter in Paris were truly cold. The cold seeped into my bones, but it also cleared my mind. I didn't come for tourism, I came to start over. I rented a small, old but cozy attic apartment in Le Marais, with its cobblestone alleys and bakeries that smelled glorious every morning. I began my new life by getting rid of everything that belonged to the past. I stopped wearing luxury brands, going to fancy places. I found a part-time job in a second-hand bookstore and took on freelance translation projects at night. I started living more slowly, like a nun, trying to cleanse the dirty memories of the last 10 years. Life continued like this until one day, I had a problem. My landlord, a surly-looking Frenchman, suddenly doubled my rent and threatened to evict me if I didn't pay, claiming I had breached an absurd clause in the French rental agreement that I didn't fully understand. I tried to argue, but my limited legal vocabulary was no match for his cunning. I felt helpless again, weak and easily intimidated. My friend, via message, advised me, "You have to find a lawyer. There are many American law firms in Paris. Don't let them take advantage of you." And that's how I ended up at a small law firm on a quiet street, specializing in helping American expatriates with civil matters. I entered, full of anxiety. The person who greeted me was not an old, experienced lawyer, but a young man, perhaps a few years older than me. He wore a simple white shirt and thin-rimmed glasses. He had an intellectual look, but his gaze was incredibly sharp. He looked at me and smiled kindly. "Hi, I'm Jacob. Please, have a seat. Tell me what's wrong." His voice was warm and deep, and his English was perfect. I explained my problem. I gave him the contract filled with French jargon. He read it quickly and then looked up, meeting my eyes directly. "He's scamming you." "I know," I stammered, "but I don't know what to do." Jacob didn't say much. He picked up the phone and called my landlord directly. I didn't understand everything he said in French, but I sensed the firmness, the determination, and the clear references to articles of law. His voice wasn't loud, but it was filled with authority. The call lasted barely 5 minutes. Jacob hung up, adjusted his glasses, and smiled at me. "It's settled. He won't bother you again. He says it was all a misunderstanding." I was stunned. "Just 5 minutes? How much do I owe you?" Jacob shook his head. "It's nothing. Fellow Americans have to help each other out." But he looked at me, his gaze warmer. "Next time you're about to sign something, bring it to me for a look. Don't let yourself be taken advantage of like that." He gave me his business card. I took it, feeling a deep sense of gratitude. It was the first time in a long time that I felt protected. Not a possessive, condescending protection like Alexander's, but a protection based on respect and professionalism. We became friends after that. We would sometimes have coffee at the bookstore where I worked. We talked about books, about Paris, about dreams. He never asked about my past. He was never curious about why I had fled here alone. He just listened. And by his side, I felt that my soul, which had been broken into 1,000 pieces, was slowly beginning to heal. 3 months passed. The winter in Paris was freezing, but work and the warm coffees with Jacob made my heart gradually find peace. I had grown accustomed to a new rhythm of life, to making my own decisions. The past in New York seemed distant, blurry like a nightmare. I started to think that maybe I would never have to hear those voices again. Until one night, returning to my attic after work, while I was preparing a simple dinner, my burner phone, the only one I used for communication, suddenly rang. An unknown number, a New York area code. My heart seized. Only my friend knew this number. I hesitated but finally answered. "Hello?" On the other end of the line, silence for a few seconds, just heavy, tired breathing. And then a voice. a voice I once thought I would never forget, but which now sounded strange, aged, and broken. "Olivia, it's Catherine." I froze, the phone cold in my hand. I said nothing. All my emotions were frozen. "Olivia, don't hang up, please. I'm begging you. I know you hate me. You hate Alexander, but forgive me." She began to sob, a desolate, pathetic cry from the other side of the phone. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my voice from trembling. I was not the weak girl from before. "Why are you calling me, ma'am?" I had called her Mom for 10 years, but the word ma'am that left my lips at that moment was light, yet sharp as a knife. Catherine seemed to stop at that address. Then she wailed, her crying growing louder. "Olivia, come back, please. Come back and save Alexander. He's dying." I frowned. What new trick was this? "I don't understand what you're saying." Ever since everything happened," Catherine sobbed. "He lost everything. The shares, the company. He locked himself in his room. He doesn't eat, he doesn't drink, only alcohol. Olivia, he's destroying himself. The doctor says he has severe depression, and yesterday," she took a ragged breath and said between sobs, "yesterday they found him in the bathroom. He tried to do something crazy. They rushed him to the ER. The doctor says he has a severe gastrointestinal hemorrhage and acute pancreatitis. He might not survive." I stood in silence, leaning against the cold wall. I imagined the scene. The arrogant, self-assured man from before, now lying in a hospital bed, struggling to breathe. "Olivia, my dear," Catherine pleaded. "He's in a coma, but he keeps calling your name. He keeps saying, 'Olivia, I was wrong.' The doctor says that maybe only you can save him. He has no will to live. I beg you, Olivia, as if I were on my knees. Come back to see him, just one last time. After all, it was 10 years of a relationship. Just come back once. If something happens to him, I won't be able to go on living." Her pleas echoed in my small room. The Parisian winter wind howled outside. 10 years of a relationship. She still had the nerve to mention those 10 years. I looked out the window. Snow had begun to fall, cold. I felt no pity. I felt no pain for him. He wasn't dying of love. He was dying from the collapse of his ego, from having lost everything. I could hear Catherine still crying on the other end of the line. I didn't say a word. Silently, I pressed the button to end the call. Catherine's call, her tears and pleas, haunted me for days. I tried to push it out of my mind, telling myself it was no longer my problem. I had hung up decisively, hoping it would be the last time I had to hear that voice, but I didn't know that my silence, my rejection, would push her to an even more insane and twisted decision. Much later, when I returned to the States, it was my friend who told me the whole story of that tragicomedy. My best friend didn't just console me from a distance. She secretly asked an acquaintance who worked at the hospital to monitor all of Catherine's family's movements. She feared that in their desperation, they would do something against me or use the media to slander me again. And what she discovered surpassed anyone's imagination. She told me that after I hung up on her, Catherine became completely desperate. Alexander was still in a deep coma. His condition was worsening because he had no will to live. In her despair, while looking through an old family photo album, she remembered something. She remembered my hometown. She immediately got in a car and drove there, to a small town hundreds of miles from the city. She didn't go to apologize to my relatives or to light a candle for my father. She went to find my distant cousin, my uncle's daughter. My cousin and I were not very close. My uncle's family had many financial difficulties and lived very reservedly. But most importantly, she resembled me by about 60 or 70%, especially in the eyes. With makeup and seen from a distance in dim light, it was easy to mistake her for me. Catherine arrived at my uncle's house, a humble one-story house in a narrow alley, looking haggard like someone who had lost everything, but still unable to hide the air of someone who had lived in luxury. She got straight to the point. She placed a check on the worn wooden table. $50,000. My friend said that was her offer. I need your daughter to help me with something. She just has to pretend to be Olivia, go to the hospital, and say a few encouraging words to Alexander. As soon as he recovers and has the will to live, this $50,000 will be for you and your family." My friend told me that my uncle's family was very poor. My aunt and uncle had worked hard their whole lives. My cousin had only finished high school and had stayed home to help her parents. They had never seen so much money together. $50,000 was a figure they wouldn't dare to imagine, even in their wildest dreams. They looked at each other with a mixture of fear and temptation in their eyes. They had vaguely heard that I had betrayed Alexander, that I had abandoned him on his wedding day. They thought maybe I had been wrong and this was their chance to amend my mistake and, in the process, help their own family. My cousin hesitated a little. She was scared, but Catherine knelt down and burst into tears, begging, "I beg you, child, save my son. If he dies, I won't want to live either. You just have to say, 'Honey, cheer up, I've come back to you.' Just that. You'll be saving a life." Finally, faced with the enormous sum of money and Catherine's desperate pleas, my cousin nodded. Catherine, relieved, immediately gave her a large amount of cash to buy clothes. She took her to the city, to a hair salon, and had her hair styled with soft waves, identical to mine. She even hired the same makeup artist who had done my makeup on my wedding day, asking him to make my cousin look as much like me as possible. When my friend told me this, I felt a chill. That mother, for her own stubbornness, was capable of resorting to any trick. She didn't care if it was right or wrong, if she was humiliating my cousin or offending me. She just wanted her son to wake up. She had turned my pain and betrayal into a role and hired a stranger to play it. That afternoon, they took my cousin to the hospital. She was wearing a beige knit dress that I used to wear often, and in her trembling hands, she held a fruit basket. She nervously and fearfully entered the VIP room where Alexander was in a coma, surrounded by countless machines. I asked my friend how my cousin felt at that moment. She told me, according to what a nurse on duty whom she had bribed told her, that my cousin was so scared her face was as white as a sheet. She was a simple country girl who had never experienced a situation like this. She tiptoed into the room. The strong smell of disinfectant mixed with the lingering scent of alcohol created a suffocating atmosphere. On the white bed, Alexander was gaunt, his face ashen, his eyes closed. He was very different from the handsome, elegant man my cousin had seen in my photos. Catherine, who was beside him, upon seeing my cousin, hastily gestured with an urgent look. My cousin, trembling, stood by the bed and said in a voice that still had the strong accent of her hometown, completely different from mine, "Alexander, it's me, Olivia." Her voice was timid and scared, but Alexander, in his delirium, didn't seem to notice. He had been on the verge of death for too long. He only heard a voice and the name, Olivia. Slowly, he opened his eyes, his clouded, lifeless gaze fixed on my cousin, and then a faint glimmer of light appeared in his eyes. Perhaps my cousin's image, which already resembled me through the veil of delirium, fever, and sedatives, had truly transformed into mine. "Olivia," he whispered in a hoarse voice. You came back. Really?" He made an effort to stretch out his thin arm, full of IV lines, and grabbed my cousin's hand. His hand was burning. "Olivia, I was wrong. Don't leave again." Catherine, seeing this, clasped her hands, so happy that tears welled up in her eyes. She quickly pushed my cousin to sit down and motioned for her to keep talking. My cousin, pressured by Catherine, stammered again. She was too scared. She had forgotten the entire script Catherine had prepared for her. She could only speak from instinct. "No, I won't leave. Cheer up. You have to get better." It was that second sentence, that trembling, strange voice, that pulled Alexander out of his delirium. The glimmer of light in his eyes vanished. He squinted, staring intently at my cousin. The fog cleared, replaced by a terrifying lucidity. He stared at the face, trying to smile at him. He realized those were not my eyes, that was not my smile. "Who are you?" he growled, weak but menacing. My cousin flinched and pulled her hand back. I'm Olivia. Don't you recognize me?" "No!" Alexander roared suddenly. A surge of anger gave him the strength to sit up and rip the IV from his arm. Blood splattered on my cousin's clothes. "You're not her. You're not Olivia." He swung his arm, knocking the tray of medicine off the bedside table. The metal clattered against the floor. "Get out! Get out of here!" He grabbed the flower vase from the table and threw it at her. She screamed and managed to dodge it. The vase shattered. Catherine ran to hug her son. "Alexander, what are you doing? It's Olivia. She really came back." "You're lying to me too." Alexander turned. His bloodshot eyes glared at his mother. "You all lie to me. Do you think I'm that stupid? Get out. All of you, get out." He screamed like a wounded beast, smashing everything within reach. The wound on his arm opened and blood began to gush out. Nurses and doctors, alerted by the noise, rushed in. It took 4 or 5 men to hold him down and administer a strong sedative. My cousin, terrified, fainted and was carried out by the nurses. When she woke up, crying, she demanded to go back to her hometown immediately. She no longer wanted the $50,000. Catherine's impersonation plan had not only failed spectacularly, but had nearly cost Alexander his life from the agitation. I listened to my friend's account with a sense of coldness. I felt no pity for Alexander. I only saw a person who, consumed by falsehood, would ultimately be destroyed by that same falsehood. The fact that I hung up on Catherine and the disastrous failure of the impersonation plan seemed to push her to the edge. She knew I was her only hope and began a campaign of psychological terrorism against me. She no longer called me because she knew I wouldn't answer. She used unknown numbers to send me voice messages through apps. At first, they were cries and pleas, detailing Alexander's critical condition, appealing to our 10 years of a relationship. When I didn't respond, the messages turned into insults and curses. "You are a heartless monster, a viper. If Alexander dies, it will be your fault. If you don't come back, you will regret it for the rest of your life. You will never be able to live in peace." Worse still, she started sending me photos. Photos of Alexander in the ICU, gaunt, pale, surrounded by tubes. Photos of the injuries he had inflicted on himself in his fits of madness. These images didn't soften me, they only made me sick. She was using her own son's fragile life as a weapon to hold me, to torment me. I started having insomnia. At night, in the bookstore, I could no longer concentrate on translations. The slightest sound of a message notification made me jump. I became irritable, tired. And Jacob noticed. He wasn't the type of person to press with questions. He simply stood by my side in silence. He would make me a cup of hot tea when he saw I was tired, or just sit with me in silence. One night, after another jolt from a horrible photo, I couldn't take it anymore. I buried my face on the table, my shoulders shaking. I told him everything. The 10 years of dating, the night before the wedding, the will, the twin pregnancy, and the daily harassment. Jacob listened without judgment, just remaining silent until I finished, until I looked up. With red-rimmed eyes, he looked at me with a firm, warm gaze. "Olivia, running away is not the solution." I looked up, my voice hoarse. "Then what do? I don't want to go back." "You're letting them control your emotions," Jacob said, his voice deep and clear. "Even from halfway across the world, they are manipulating you with guilt and fear. They will never leave you in peace if you don't cut that thread yourself." "Cut it?" "Yes," he nodded. "Avoiding them only makes them think you still care, that it still affects you. The more you remain silent, the more they will insist. You have to face them once, make everything clear, and end this once and for all. You have to show them you're not afraid, that you don't regret it, and that you no longer care." I hesitated. To return to that place, to face that person, the mother who once loved me but also deceived me mercilessly. I wasn't sure I had the courage. As if reading my thoughts, Jacob gently placed his hand on mine. His hand was warm. "You don't have to go alone." He looked at me and smiled. "I'll go back to the States with you." I was stunned. "Jacob, but what about your work here?" "I can work remotely," he smiled. "Besides, the home office branch needs me to resolve some pending matters. I can't let the woman I love face the storm alone." The woman I love. His words made my heart, which had turned cold as Parisian ice, suddenly feel warm. He was right. I couldn't run forever. I had to go back. Not for Alexander, not for Catherine, but for myself. I needed a clear ending so I could truly start a new life with this man. Okay, I agreed firmly. I'll go back. A flight of over 10 hours brought me back to the city I thought I would never set foot in again. 3 months is not a long time, but it's enough for everything to seem strange. Or maybe it was my heart that had changed. The air was still humid and suffocating, very different from the sharp cold of Paris. Jacob dragged his suitcase beside me. His calm and solidity gave me strength. Me, who was preparing for a battle. We went to the hotel. I used a completely new phone number to call Catherine. On the other end, she answered instantly, as if she had been waiting for this call for the past 3 months. "Hello, who is this?" "It's me, Olivia," I said calmly. She held her breath and then shouted, her voice distorted with joy. "Olivia, you're back. Where are you? Come to the hospital right now. Alexander." "I'm not going to the hospital," I interrupted coldly. "I've come back to set things straight. Let's meet somewhere, just you and him. If I see anyone else or any reporters, I will leave immediately." She stammered, probably surprised by my firmness. Okay. Then come to the greenhouse on the outskirts. That place is quiet. No one will bother us. I'll bring him there." She hung up hastily. The greenhouse on the outskirts. I knew it. It was a luxurious, high-tech agriculture project in which Alexander's group had invested a lot of money, a status symbol. Jacob drove me. He stopped at the main entrance without turning off the engine. He would wait outside. "Olivia?" He looked at me. "If anything happens, you just call. Or if you don't text me in 5 minutes, I'm coming in." I nodded gratefully. "It'll just be a moment." I got out of the car and walked alone towards the giant greenhouse that reflected the dazzling summer Sunday I passed through the automatic door. A cool air with the scent of plants and damp earth enveloped me. And then I gasped. Before me were not rows of organic vegetables or high-tech melons. Before me was an entire forest of pear blossoms, hundreds of pear trees in full bloom, a pristine white, their delicate petals trembling under the specialized LED lights. They had turned this greenhouse into an eternal spring. I stopped on the white gravel path, surrounded by a surreal beauty, an artificial beauty, forced with technology and money. I felt a bitter laugh rise inside me. Pear blossoms, my favorite, the same flowers that witnessed his declaration of love 10 years ago. Until the very end, he still thought love could be staged with money. He thought that by recreating a romantic scene, showing off a wealth that was perhaps no longer his, he could move me. I heard light footsteps. From behind an ancient, meticulously pruned pear tree, Alexander appeared. If Catherine hadn't warned me, I might not have recognized him. 3 months. Only 3 months. The handsome, arrogant man, always the center of attention. Now he was just a shadow. He was gaunt. His skin was grayish, wrapped in a long beige coat that was too big for him, as if he were swimming in it. His eyes were sunken, lifeless, filled with red veins. But upon seeing me, those eyes lit up with a strange light, a longing, a possession, a terrifying joy. "Olivia," he whispered, "you came back. Really, I knew you would come back." He walked towards me with a hesitant step, extending his arms as if to hug me. I instinctively took a step back. His outstretched arms froze in midair. His eyes were still fixed on me, a feverish look of a drowning man finding a lifesaver that sent a shiver down my spine. That gaunt face, the long, disheveled hair, I no longer recognized the man I had loved for 10 years. He was a stranger, or a walking shadow of the past. "But you're back. That's what matters," he swayed, trying to take another step towards me. I raised my hand, a firm gesture to stop him. He didn't dare move closer. He stood there in the middle of the fake pear blossom forest, and suddenly his legs gave way. He knelt. The proudest man I had ever known. The heir of a conglomerate, the one who had never bowed to anyone. Now he was on his knees before me on the cold white gravel. "Olivia, I was wrong. I know I was wrong," he began to cry, a hoarse, broken sob, as if he had run out of tears long ago. "You came back. That means you forgive me, right? I know you still love me. Our 10 years can't be thrown away just like that." I remained silent. I looked at him as if I were watching a play that had nothing to do with me. I felt no pain, No satisfaction, just a terrifying emptiness. Seeing that I didn't react, he panicked. He crawled on his knees, trying to get closer. "Olivia, are you angry about Chloe? About the pregnancy?" He looked at me, his bloodshot eyes gleaming with a crazed hope. "But don't worry anymore. I've fixed it. I've fixed everything." My body froze. "Fixed it?" Yes, he nodded frantically, like a child showing off his achievements. "You didn't like her, so I gave her money. A lot of money. She will never dare to appear in front of you again. She and her family have disappeared from the city." He looked at me, expecting praise. I took a deep breath, the cold air of the greenhouse filling my lungs. And the pregnancy doesn't exist anymore either," he said, with a lightness as if he were talking about something trivial. "The fall, that day, it was lost. Everything was lost. Olivia, there's nothing separating us anymore." My ears were ringing. He was talking about his legal wife and his twins. He used the word fixed as if he were getting rid of a broken object, a pile of trash. He believed that just by snapping his fingers, with all the obstacles gone, I would happily agree to come back. "You see?" He tried to smile, a twisted smile on his gaunt face. "I do everything for you. The shares. I don't have them anymore. I don't need them. The company has collapsed. I'll build it up again. I just need you, Olivia. Come back with me, please. We'll start over right here, in this pear garden, I promise you." I looked at him. A feeling of supreme disgust washed over me. It was worse than the feeling of betrayal. He was not human. He was an egocentric monster. My gaze must have been so cold that his smile faded. I shook my head, my voice terribly calm. "Alexander, you still don't understand." I do understand," he stammered. "No, you don't understand," I interrupted. "You're here, on your knees, crying. You've set up this whole garden. It's not because you're sorry. It's because you have regrets." "I'm not regretting, I'm sorry," he shouted weakly. "You regret being found out," I said slowly, word by word. "You don't regret betraying me. If I hadn't found that folder that night, if my plan had failed, right now you would be the chairman of the group, and I would be the puppet chairman's wife, while you happily enjoyed your other family. Wouldn't you?" He was stunned. My words were like a dagger to his heart. He couldn't deny it. I continued in the same monotonous voice. "You got rid of Chloe not because you loved me, but because she was an obstacle, the proof of your failure. Do you think I'm the last asset you have left? The lifesaver you cling to prove you haven't lost everything? But I'm not." "No, it's not like that," he stammered, panicking. I turned away. I didn't want to see that face for another second. "I came back not to hear your apologies, but to tell you that this is really over." Seeing me turn away, Alexander's desperation turned into madness. He jumped up. His gaunt body suddenly had incredible strength. He lunged at me and grabbed my wrist, squeezing it like a vice. "No, you're not leaving, you're mine. I won't let you leave. I've lost everything. I can't lose you too." I tried to pull away, but it was useless. Madness had made him lose his reason. He dragged me towards him. "Let her go." A deep, calm voice suddenly sounded from the greenhouse entrance. Alexander's hand stopped. He turned sharply. There stood Jacob. I don't know since when. He was still in his simple white shirt and dress pants, with his elegant and serene look. His presence in this chaotic scene was like a completely different painting. He was the polar opposite of the gaunt, disheveled Alexander in his enormous coat. "And who are you?" Alexander roared, but there was already bewilderment in his voice. Jacob was unfazed. He approached, his gaze calm but imposing. Gently but firmly, he pried Alexander's fingers off my wrist one by one. "I would appreciate it if you let her go." When my hand was free, Jacob placed me behind him, protecting me. He looked directly into Alexander's eyes with the same polite voice. "Hello, I'm Jacob. I'm Olivia's boyfriend." Boyfriend. Those two words were like the final hammer blow that shattered Alexander's last hopes. He looked at me, then at Jacob. He took a step back, then another. "Boyfriend? No, it can't be." He shook his head, as if he didn't believe what he was hearing. He looked at me, his gaze shifting from madness to utter despair. He clutched his chest, and a violent coughing fit racked his body. He coughed so hard he doubled over, and then he spat out a mouthful of blood. The dark red blood splattered on the white petals covering the ground at his feet. He collapsed, his eyes still open, staring at me before losing consciousness. The image of Alexander falling, coughing up blood happened right in front of me. A part of me, perhaps the instinct of a 10-year relationship, wanted to run to him, but Jacob stopped me. "Don't go. Our work here is done." He was right. I was not a doctor, and I was no longer anything to him. Jacob took off his jacket and put it over my shoulders, covering the tremors I was trying to suppress. He took my hand, a firm hand, and helped me walk. We passed by Alexander's convulsing body without looking back. His weak groans could be heard behind us, mixed with the soft music that still played automatically in the greenhouse. As we were about to leave, a figure stood in our way. It was Catherine. She was no longer crying or begging like on the phone. Now her face, which had aged 10 years and 3 months, was disfigured by rage. She had just seen her son fall. "Stop!" she screamed in a shrill voice. "You are a demon. Are you happy now? Do you see what you've done to him? If something happens to him, you'll be glad. You are so cruel, Olivia." She raised her hand, a thin, wrinkled hand, to slap me. But Jacob stopped the slap in midair. His hand gripped Catherine's wrist, holding it firmly. "Ma'am, please, have some respect." Jacob's voice was still calm, but cold as steel. She tried to break free, but couldn't. She turned to me, continuing her curses. "You brought your lover here to humiliate him?" I gestured for Jacob to let her go. I took a step forward, facing Catherine, facing the woman I once called mother. "You say he's like this because of me?" I asked, my voice equally icy. "Of course he is," she screamed. "You abandoned him, and now you come back to torture him." I looked her straight in the eye. Those eyes that once looked at me with love now only reflected hatred and stubbornness. "It's his own fault," I said clearly, "and yours, ma'am." "What? What are you saying?" She was stunned. "He is a traitor, and you," I growled. "You are his accomplice. You knew everything. You knew your son was a bigamist. You knew he had a child with Chloe. But you still came to the hotel to see me, put the family bracelet on me, and made me promise to trust him. Why did you do it?" I stepped closer, lowering my voice. "For our love? No. For the will, for the immense fortune. You were afraid I would cancel the wedding and your son would lose everything." Catherine's face turned white as wax. She stepped back. I had hit the nail on the head. "You covered up his deceit," I continued. "You used me as a tool for your son to get the inheritance. You even had the cruelty to find someone to impersonate me. A cheap farce. You never truly considered me your daughter. Him being like this is his punishment. And you, seeing your son like this today, that is the price you pay for your cover-up and your greed. I have nothing more to say." I took Jacob's hand. "Let's go." "Stop. Come back here." We left, leaving behind Catherine's hysterical screams, Alexander's groans from the pear garden, and a 10-year past of lies. As Jacob and I got into the car, I sent a single message to my friend. "Call an ambulance to the greenhouse on the outskirts. Alexander Thorne." The car started, taking me far away from that place forever. Years later, Paris greets winter with light, white snowflakes. Jacob and I are married. We have a quiet life. It's not as luxurious as my past, but it's warm and fulfilling. I've opened a small second-hand bookstore in an old alley, specializing in American and French literature. Jacob continues his work as a lawyer. He is now a respected voice defending American expatriates abroad. One Saturday afternoon, with a gentle snowfall, Jacob and I are taking a walk after closing the bookstore. We are holding hands. He goes into a small grocery store to buy some spices his mother back in the States asked him for over the phone. I wait for him outside, huddled in my beige wool coat. Across the street is a small restaurant with warm, bright lights. The sign says, "Traditional Pho." The aroma of broth, star anise, cinnamon, and cardamom wafts through the cold street, a nostalgic scent. The place is full, with locals and curious tourists. I look curiously through the large window, fogged up by steam. And then I freeze. The man behind the counter, laboriously slicing thin pieces of beef with speed and precision. He is much thinner. His hair has streaks of gray, his back is slightly stooped. He wears an apron and works diligently, without distraction. There is not a trace left of the arrogant young millionaire, the dazzling heir of yesteryear. Just then, as if by premonition, he looks up. Perhaps he feels someone staring at him. Our gazes meet across the steamed-up glass, through the dense traffic, through nearly a decade of hatred and pain. He stops, the knife still in his hand. In his eyes, I no longer see madness, or possession, or even hatred. Only a deep weariness, an acceptance of his fate, and a surprising serenity. Me too. My heart is calm, like a lake on a windless day. I no longer feel hatred or disgust. He is just an old acquaintance in a very distant place. Jacob comes out of the store, puts his arm around my shoulders, and hands me a bag of warm ginger candies. "Are you cold, my love? I bought these to warm you up." I smile and shake my head. I take his hand. I turn away, without looking back at the pho restaurant. He has found a way to move on. I have too. He has probably paid for all his mistakes with the rest of his life. The past, however painful, is in the end just the past. It has been left on the other side of the street, wrapped in the hot steam of a bowl of soup. The greatest revenge isn't destroying those who have wronged you, it's finding your own peace. To forgive is not to say that what they did was okay, but to say that you will no longer let it poison your own soul. Jacob and I continue walking together towards the warm yellow lights at the end of the street, where our home awaits us. On my brother's wedding day, I witnessed my husband and my future sister-in-law sharing a moment of secret passion in a dark corner. But instead of causing a scene right then and there, I joined forces with my brother to turn that day of celebration into a stage for unforgettable revelations, causing them to lose everything in a matter of hours. How could a groom, betrayed by his own fiancée, maintain such composure? My story might seem unbelievable to many, but it is the bitter, raw truth I had to live through. It was a sunny day in New York City. The Plaza Hotel was adorned with luxurious white silk ribbons and fresh flowers. Dazzling crystal chandeliers illuminated everything, making it sparkle like a fairy tale scene. Soft music and words of blessing filled the air. Today was the big day for my brother Liam and my future sister-in-law Sophia. As the groom's sister, Chloe, I couldn't hide my happiness and pride. Standing in a corner of the grand ballroom, I smiled as I watched my brother in his impeccable tuxedo. His handsome face was radiant with joy. He's 5 years my senior, and ever since we were kids, he has always looked after and protected me. After our parents passed away prematurely, he was a father, a friend, my whole world. Seeing that he had found a lifelong refuge with a woman as beautiful and sweet as Sophia filled my heart with infinite warmth. Sophia had a fragile and delicate appearance. She spoke in a soft voice and always looked at my brother with admiration. During their courtship, she treated me like a true sister. I thought our small family was finally complete and that I too had found my own happiness. My husband, Ethan, stood beside me, his arm around my waist. He was a talented architect and, in my eyes and everyone else's, the perfect man. We had been married for 5 years and had a marriage that was the envy of all. He was always gentle and attentive, my pillar of support through every storm. He gently squeezed my hand and whispered in my ear, "Your brother looks amazing today, and your sister-in-law looks like a dream. They're a match made in heaven." I smiled, leaning my head on his shoulder, feeling the familiar sense of calm. Yes, I hope they'll be as happy as we are. I sincerely believed I was the luckiest woman in the world. I had a brother who adored me, a wonderful husband, and soon, a lovely sister-in-law. I was living in that rose-colored bubble, until just a few minutes later, I burst it with my own hands. The ceremony was about to begin. I suddenly realized that my husband had been gone for a while. I wanted to take a picture with the bride and groom before they went on stage. I looked around but didn't see his familiar figure. I thought maybe he had stepped out to take a call, so I walked alone towards the end of the hallway, where there was a small balcony overlooking the hotel's rear garden. It was a rather quiet place, so I assumed he might be there. As I got closer, I heard whispers mixed with a woman's giggle. That voice was all too familiar. I slowed my pace, my heart suddenly starting to beat a little faster. Through the crack of the open glass door leading to the balcony, I saw a scene that made my blood run cold. My husband Ethan was there. And the woman he was holding in his arms, kissing passionately, was none other than the bride of the day, Sophia, my future sister-in-law. She was still wearing her immaculate wedding dress, but now it seemed incredibly disgusting and hypocritical to me. Time seemed to stand still, my ears went deaf, all the sounds around me disappeared, and I could only hear the sound of my heart shattering. I leaned heavily against the cold wall to keep from collapsing. A lump formed in my throat, and a wave of nausea rose in my chest, and then their conversation reached my ears. Every word was like a sharp knife, mercilessly stabbing the last shred of hope I had left. "You're very bold, babe, meeting here at this hour." Sophia's voice was flirtatious. Her hands were still wrapped around Ethan's neck. Ethan scoffed. A laugh I had never heard from him, full of arrogance and disdain. "What are you afraid of? No one would ever imagine. Look at that stupid family of hers, busy running around like puppets. And her brother. That Liam, he's just a lovesick fool. We have everything under control." That stupid referred to me. A lovesick fool referred to my brother. I clenched my fists tightly. My nails dug into my flesh, but I felt no pain. "Still, I'm a little nervous," Sophia continued. "What if everything is discovered later? Besides, I don't like the idea of living with you and your wife." Ethan laughed again, this time with contempt. "You don't have to be jealous of that kid. I married her only for the status of being the daughter of a well-respected, educated family, to fool the world. She's nothing more than a baby machine, my shield. As soon as she gives me a son, I'll find a way to get rid of her. Soon, all of Liam's fortune will be ours, and then you can have whatever you want, my love." My love. Those two words struck me like lightning. I couldn't bear it anymore. My world, my beliefs, 5 years of love, everything had been shattered in an instant. I turned around and began walking like an automaton. I didn't know where I was going. Tears streamed down my face, but I didn't have the courage to cry out loud. I just felt disgust, a profound disgust. Stumbling along, my mind blank, I bumped into someone. Lifting my head, through my tear-blurred vision, I saw a figure. It was my brother, the groom of the day. Liam, seeing my pitiful state, furrowed his handsome brow slightly. "Chloe, what's wrong? Did something happen?" I couldn't hold it in any longer. I threw my arms around him and burst into tears. Between choked sobs, I told him everything I had just seen and heard. I expected him to be furious, to run to that balcony and smash everything, to call off the wedding immediately, but he just listened to me in silence, gently patting my back with his large hand. When I stopped crying, he gently pushed me away and looked me straight in the eye. On his face, there was neither surprise nor anger, only a terrifying calm. He wiped my tears gently and then gave me a wink, a meaningful gesture that only we, as siblings, understood. He whispered in my ear a sentence I will never forget in my life. "Don't worry, the main event is about to begin." What would happen to this story? What was the main event my brother was talking about? If you, dear listeners, are as curious as I am, don't hesitate to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next chapter of this dramatic tale. My brother Liam's words fell like a thunderbolt in my ears, leaving me so stunned that I even forgot to cry. The main event? In such a critical situation, when my beloved brother was being betrayed on his wedding day by his fiancée and my husband, how could he say something like that so calmly? My mind was in chaos. I thought perhaps the shock had been so great that he had lost his mind. Seeing me still standing there, dazed, Liam said nothing more. He simply took my hand firmly and led me towards the end of the hall, where the groom's waiting room was located. He looked around cautiously, and only after making sure no one was there, he pushed me inside and locked the door. The room was decorated with white ribbons and balloons, but the air inside was heavy and tense, almost suffocating. "Chloe, listen to me carefully." Liam turned and looked me straight in the eye. His expression was no longer one of terrifying calm. It was the seriousness and cold determination I only saw when he made important business decisions. I've known about all this for a long time. I froze once again. For a long time? How? How was that possible? Liam sighed and pulled a chair over for me to sit down. It was 3 months ago, he began to recount. I started to notice that something wasn't right. That woman, Sophia, showed an excessive interest in the management of our company. She frequently asked about projects or the financial situation details that a fiancé wouldn't normally care to know in such detail. And your husband, Ethan, acted with an abnormal familiarity with her. Subtle glances, small gestures, things that only those involved would notice. A knot formed in my chest. While I was blind with happiness, my brother had been silently detecting the dangerous undercurrents. I had a bad feeling, he continued. So I secretly hired a private investigator, and what they discovered was far more terrible than I had imagined. It wasn't just infidelity, Chloe. Behind it all was a meticulously calculated conspiracy. Liam opened his phone and showed me several photos and documents. They were pictures of Ethan and Sophia on secret dates in luxurious places. There were also bank statements showing large sums of money transferred from an unidentified account to Sophia's, and what horrified me the most was a detailed plan found in Ethan's emails. The plan was organized in phases. First, Sophia would seduce my brother with her beauty and false sweetness to marry him and officially become part of our family. At the same time, Ethan, as my husband, would use my trust to gradually leak internal company information. Their ultimate goal was that after the wedding, Sophia would convince Liam to entrust Ethan with the management of several important projects. That way, they could conspire to embezzle company funds, create ghost debts, and finally bankrupt the company our parents left us to take everything. I felt the blood freeze in my veins. My 5 years of marriage, the love I had cultivated, had all been just a move in their plan. Ethan didn't love me. He had only used me as a pawn and a tool to carry out his dirty conspiracy. Romantic betrayal now turned into a deep hatred. They had not only trampled on my feelings, but they had also tried to destroy our parents' life's work. Then why? Why did you go ahead with this wedding knowing everything? I asked, looking up at my brother. My voice trembled. Liam looked at me, and a sharp glint crossed his eyes. If I had broken off the engagement, then we would have only caught 2 small fish, Ethan and Sophia. The one pulling the strings from the shadows would have never been revealed. Besides, we didn't have enough evidence to expose their entire conspiracy. My brother decided to turn the wedding itself into a trap, a grand stage where everyone could witness the play together. Liam squeezed my hand. I have everything prepared, Chloe. The company's important assets have been transferred to a secure trust. The projects they're interested in are just shell projects with no value, and I've installed recorders and cameras everywhere. We just have to wait for them to expose themselves. I looked at my brother, feeling both pity and admiration. He had endured all of this alone, planning and counterattacking, while I was still happy in my false, rose-colored world. Now, I need you. Liam's voice became more serious than ever. Your appearance, the fact that you discovered the truth at this moment, is a variable they didn't expect. But that will become our ace in the hole. Ethan and Sophia will only see you as a poor wife heartbroken by betrayal. They will never suspect you. Right now, keep playing that role. Keep crying. Pretend to be devastated. The more miserable you appear, the better. Can you do it? I quickly wiped my tears. The pain still burned in my chest, but now it had transformed into the flames of hatred. My brother was right. This was no time to be weak. I was not just crying over my husband's betrayal. I had to fight for justice for our entire family. I can do it, I nodded, my voice much firmer. Just then, there was a knock on the door. Mr. Miller, it's time for the ceremony to begin. It was the wedding planner's voice. Liam stood up and adjusted his bow tie. He looked at me and smiled, a smile full of confidence. All right, little sis, let's go out there. The show is about to begin. Remember, you are not alone. Your brother is here. My brother opened the door, and we walked out together. As we reached the main hall, we saw Ethan and Sophia cheerfully talking with some guests, arm in arm. Upon seeing Liam and me, Ethan quickly approached with his usual concerned expression. Chloe, where have you been? I've been looking all over for you. I looked up at him. My eyes were still swollen from crying. I said nothing, just shook my head and moved closer to my brother. Ethan seemed a bit puzzled by my coldness, but probably chalked it up to exhaustion. The music in the wedding hall suddenly became more solemn. The master of ceremonies announced in a powerful voice, "And now, let's give a warm welcome to today's stars. The groom, Mr. Liam Miller, and the bride, Miss Sophia Reed." All the lights focused on them, and all eyes were filled with admiration. And as my brother, the groom, took that woman's hand, the woman who almost became my sister-in-law, to enter the hall, I smiled. My smile was probably the most perfect lie of my life, but it was also the smile that foretold the storm to come. Under the dazzling stage lights, my brother and Sophia looked like a perfect couple. Liam still wore a happy smile, but I knew it was just part of a flawless performance. She pretended to be shy and sweet, occasionally casting loving glances at him. She was an exceptional actress. They walked together down an aisle covered in white roses to the incessant applause of hundreds of guests. I sat in the front row of the family section with Ethan by my side. He still had his arm around my shoulders, whispering sweet nothings to me from time to time. "Aren't they beautiful? I hope we'll celebrate such a grand wedding anniversary too." I just leaned on his shoulder in silence, pretending to be intoxicated by the romantic atmosphere of the ceremony. But in reality, I was struggling to suppress the nausea rising in my throat. Every one of his words and actions now felt repulsive to me. His hand on my shoulder, the same hand that had once caressed me with tenderness, was the same one that had embraced another woman just minutes before. The ceremony proceeded according to the usual protocol. The MC, with his syrupy voice, praised the predestined love story and the meeting of two souls. Hearing it, I almost laughed out loud. Destiny? Yes, a destiny woven with conspiracies and calculations. After the empty speeches, the moment for the exchange of rings finally arrived. An adorable flower girl, dressed in pristine white, came onto the stage with the wedding rings on a red velvet pillow. Liam and Sophia faced each other, ready to exchange their symbols of love. One moment. Suddenly, a voice from the audience broke the sacred moment. The entire hall held its breath, and all eyes turned to the person who had just spoken. It was a middle-aged woman. Her attire was quite elegant, but her face was filled with anger and pain. She was accompanied by an older man, probably her husband. I saw Sophia on stage flinch slightly, and her face turned pale for an instant. My brother remained calm, as if he had anticipated this woman's appearance. "Excuse me, who are you? What's going on?" The MC tried to control the situation. The woman didn't answer, but walked directly onto the stage and stood in front of Sophia. "Sophia, do you recognize me?" she said, her voice a mix of anger and disappointment. Sophia took a step back, her face so pale it was drained of blood. "Ma'am, how are you here?" "Why shouldn't I be here?" the woman scoffed bitterly. "I came to see how my future daughter-in-law, the one who swore eternal love to my son, is about to become another man's wife. I came to seek justice for my son." A murmur began to spread among the guests. Future daughter-in-law? Son? What was happening? Ethan, sitting beside me, was also surprised. "What's going on, Chloe?" "Who is that woman?" he asked me. I just shook my head, feigning equal surprise and confusion. The woman turned to the guests and raised her voice. "Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry to interrupt this happy day, but there's something I must say. This young lady on the stage, Sophia, was my son's fiancée. They were in love for 5 years, celebrated their engagement, and were just waiting for the wedding date. But in just a few months, she changed her mind and left with a richer man, leaving my son in terrible pain. As she finished, she pulled out a stack of photos from her purse and threw them onto the stage. Photos of Sophia with another man in affectionate poses scattered across the floor. There were also pictures from their engagement party. A collective gasp echoed through the hall. Now all the gazes directed at the bride were not of admiration, but of curiosity, doubt, and reproach. Sophia stood frozen on the stage, her face as white as a sheet. She tried to explain, stammering, "No, it's not like that. That person and we broke up a long time ago." "Broke up?" The woman scoffed again. "How shameless you are. Now you lie. Just 3 months ago, you took money from my son for shopping and investments. You deceived and used him. How can you betray him like this now?" Sophia couldn't say anything and looked at Liam with pleading eyes. But my brother, the groom and the one who should have been the most furious, simply crossed his arms and looked at her with an unfamiliar coldness and distance. I, sitting below, watched the play unfold in silence. I knew this was the first act my brother had prepared. He had found the ex-boyfriend Sophia had abandoned and invited his mother here. He wanted to rip off Sophia's mask of innocence and purity in front of everyone. Seeing the situation getting out of hand, Sophia suddenly clutched her chest, staggered, and collapsed on the stage, feigning a faint. "Oh my God, the bride has fainted," some people shouted. Sophia's family, whom I knew were nothing more than hired actors, rushed to the stage, creating a chaotic scene. Amidst it all, Liam slowly walked over and looked down at the fainted Sophia. He showed no concern, but rather a slight smile. He took the microphone from the stunned MC. "Ladies and gentlemen," his voice resonated, firm and clear, silencing all the noise. "I'm sorry to have shown you such an unpleasant play, but I believe the truth must always come to light." He glanced at Sophia, who was peeking at the crowd's reaction. "You act very well, Miss Reed, but I think it's time to end this farce." His words were like a bucket of cold water for everyone. Sophia, startled, quickly closed her eyes, but it was too late. Everyone had seen her. "And to make this play even more interesting," Liam continued, "I'd like to invite another special guest to the stage, someone who is very closely related to this charade." He looked towards where Ethan and I were sitting, and my heart started to beat faster. I knew it was our turn to take the stage. The stage lights suddenly swung directly onto Ethan and me, making us the center of attention. Hundreds of curious and surprised pairs of eyes were fixed on the family section. Ethan was stunned, not understanding what was happening. He turned to me and whispered in a confused voice, "Who is your brother calling? A special guest?" I didn't answer, just looked at him with tear-filled eyes, with an innocent and helpless expression. I knew it was my turn to act. "On stage," Liam continued, raising his voice. This time he addressed my husband directly. "The person I want to invite is none other than my brother-in-law, the architect Ethan Thompson. Could you please come up here and share in this joy with us?" This sudden invitation caused even more of a stir in the hall. People didn't understand why the groom would call his brother-in-law to the stage at such a delicate moment. Ethan was completely paralyzed. He looked at me, then at the stage, and his face turned pale. He probably started to feel that something was very wrong, but faced with his brother-in-law's public invitation and the gaze of hundreds of people, he couldn't refuse. "Go on up, honey," I said softly, giving him a gentle push on the back. With an innocent tone, I added, "Maybe Liam wants you to share the secret of a happy marriage." My words were like a pinprick, but enough to make Ethan flinch. He swallowed hard and, forcing a smile, slowly got up and walked towards the stage. Each of his steps seemed to weigh a ton. When Ethan got on stage, Liam put an arm around his shoulders in an affectionate manner and addressed the audience. "Ladies and gentlemen, don't you think my brother-in-law is handsome and talented? I'm very proud to have a brother-in-law like him. Not only is he a talented architect, but also a wonderful husband who deeply loves my sister." Liam's praise baffled Ethan even more. He could only smile awkwardly without saying a word. "And perhaps," Liam continued, his voice suddenly becoming meaningful, "he's so perfect that not only my sister loves him, but other women love him too. Isn't that right, my dear bride?" Liam turned to Sophia, who was still lying on the floor pretending to be unconscious, but upon hearing this, I saw her eyelids tremble slightly. Ethan's face was now as white as a sheet. He started to sweat cold and tried to wriggle out of Liam's arm. "Brother-in-law, what are you saying? Everyone is misunderstanding things." "Misunderstanding?" Liam laughed out loud, a laugh without any warmth. "Well, let me show everyone what the misunderstanding is." As he finished, Liam signaled to the technical crew. The two enormous LED screens on either side of the stage, which had originally been showing romantic photos of the bride and groom, suddenly went dark and then lit up again. But this time, the image that appeared was not of roses or candles. It was a video recorded from a hidden angle on the balcony. The entire hall gasped. The same scene that I had to witness just an hour before unfolded vividly before the eyes of hundreds of people. My husband Ethan, passionately embracing and kissing the bride Sophia, dressed in her immaculate wedding dress. The audio was also recorded with great clarity. Each of their disgusting words echoed throughout the hall. That stupid family of hers, busy running around like puppets. And that Liam, he's just a lovesick fool. I married her only to fool the world. She's nothing more than a baby machine. The entire ballroom seemed to explode. Shouts, insults, and looks of contempt rained down mercilessly on the two people on stage. The most sordid drama of adultery and betrayal was being projected in the most vivid way possible. Sophia could no longer keep up her fainting act. She jumped up, pale and trembling from head to toe. Ethan could barely stand. He staggered back a few steps and, pointing at the screen, stammered, "No, it's not true. It's edited. It's fake." But his weak words couldn't quell the crowd's anger. "Trash. What a pair of cheaters. I can't believe it." Insults erupted from all sides. Sophia's fake family couldn't continue acting either. They stood frozen, their faces red with shame, not knowing what to do. And I was still sitting in the front row. The tears started to flow again. This time it wasn't an act. They were tears of pain from having to relive that scene and hear those poisonous words again in front of so many people. I covered my face with my hands, my shoulders shaking. I had to portray the image of a miserable victim, a wife completely shattered by the cruel truth. On stage, Liam looked at me, and a flash of compassion crossed his eyes, but it was quickly replaced by cold determination. He walked over and snatched the microphone from the MC's hand. "Ladies and gentlemen," he shouted. His voice had an invisible force that instantly silenced the chaotic hall. "Have you all seen it? This is the true face of the woman I was about to marry and the man I once considered my brother-in-law, part of my family." He turned to Ethan and Sophia. His gaze was like two knives. "Do you two have anything else to say? Or do you want me to show you something even more interesting?" Ethan and Sophia, desperate, could only shake their heads. They were completely cornered, with no way to excuse themselves. "But all of this," Liam continued, his voice becoming even more mysterious and frightening, "doesn't end here. This drama of infidelity is actually just the tip of a much larger iceberg." The entire hall fell silent again. Everyone wondered what the groom meant. Liam pulled out a stack of documents from his tuxedo pocket and held it up for everyone to see. What they really wanted wasn't love, but this. What was in that stack of documents? And what connection did it have with the person who, according to my brother, was pulling the strings from the shadows? All eyes were fixed on the stack of papers in my brother's hand, waiting for an even more terrible truth to be revealed. The stack of documents in Liam's hand was like a mysterious object that captured everyone's attention. The whole room held its breath, waiting to see which way this drama would unfold. Ethan and Sophia also looked up, and in their desperate eyes, terror was now reflected. They probably knew better than anyone what those papers contained. "Before I tell you what this is," Liam said in a slow, clear voice, "I'd like to tell you a little story. The story of a cunning old fox who used two skunks to rob a hen house." He scanned the room, his gaze piercing through some of the guests, seated in the VIP section. I noticed a middle-aged man, with a stout face and dressed in an elegant gray suit, suddenly tense up. He coughed lightly and adjusted his tie. "The fox," Liam continued, "knew the hen house was very well protected, so he didn't dare act on his own. That's why he found two skunks, a male and a female. He promised them a life of abundance, food, and warm clothing. They just had to help him carry out a plan. The female skunk's mission was to seduce the head rooster, the future owner of the hen house. The male skunk's mission was to court the head rooster's sister, a naive hen, to become part of the family." Hearing this, I no longer needed to act. The tears flowed for real. My brother's metaphorical story was like another knife twisting in my pain. I was that naive hen. Their ultimate goal, Liam's voice grew even colder, was, after gaining their trust, to slowly open the doors and break the fences so that the old fox from outside could quietly come in and take over the entire hen house. Isn't that a perfect plan? He looked directly at Ethan and Sophia. "You two skunks, Does this story sound familiar? Ethan and Sophia couldn't say anything, just hung their heads in shame. And this, Liam raised the stack of documents, is the detailed plan and the map that the old fox drew for the two skunks, the map that tells them which path to take and where to break the fence. This is the complete plan to take over the Miller Corporation, our parents' life's work. He flipped through the documents one by one, projecting their contents directly onto the big screen. Figures, charts, and dirty business strategies appeared clearly. Their plan was not limited to embezzling company funds. It included creating false scandals, undermining Liam's credibility, and fomenting internal divisions to finally create the conditions for a rival company to acquire the Miller Corporation at a bargain price. And the name of that rival company was also written in plain sight: Aurelian Holdings. The entire hall began to murmur again. Aurelian Holdings was not an unknown name in the business world. It was an emerging force that had risen rapidly with bold and controversial moves. And the man in the gray suit, who had shown strange behavior before, was none other than the CEO of Aurelian Holdings, Mr. Caldwell. Now all eyes were on him. Mr. Caldwell turned pale, but tried to maintain his composure. He stood up, straightened his clothes, and tried to leave the room. "Mr. Caldwell, where are you going in such a hurry?" Liam's voice was like an invisible rope tying his ankles. "The best part is yet to come. You wouldn't want to miss it." Mr. Caldwell turned and forced an awkward business smile. "CEO Miller, I believe there's a misunderstanding. I have nothing to do with your company's internal affairs." "Nothing to do?" Liam laughed coldly. "Then how do you explain your secret meetings with these two people? And the money you sent Miss Reed so she could pose as a rich girl? And the promise of a project director position to Mr. Thompson, if everything went well?" Each of Liam's questions was a heavy blow that left Mr. Caldwell barely able to stand. I knew my brother wasn't just talking. He had all the evidence in his hands. Just then, two men in plain clothes who looked like police detectives slowly approached Mr. Caldwell's table. They said nothing, just stared at him with a solemn gaze. Mr. Caldwell realized that all his escape routes were blocked. He collapsed into his chair, his forehead drenched in sweat. The play he had so carefully constructed was about to end. The old fox had finally been cornered. I, sitting below, watched it all. My heart was no longer filled with personal pain, but with anger at the vileness and cruelty of the business world. For profit, they were capable of trampling on everything: love, family ties, even human decency. My husband Ethan, whom I once loved madly, was just a pawn on someone else's chessboard. He had sold his soul for a vain promise. He looked at me, and in his eyes there was no longer shamelessness, but an extreme emptiness and despair. He had lost everything: love, honor, and also his future. On stage, Liam, after exposing the entire conspiracy, turned to me. He walked in my direction without saying a word, and held out his hand. I took his hand, and we went up on stage together. He took the microphone, and his voice was no longer sharp, but softened with a touch of compassion. "Ladies and gentlemen, the person most hurt in this story is not me, but my sister, Chloe. This girl has had to endure the deceit and betrayal of the man she loved deeply. She is completely innocent." He turned to me and, with a look full of love, said, "Chloe, I'm sorry. I'm sorry you had to go through this. I should have realized sooner. I should have protected you better." I just shook my head, and the tears welled up again, but this time they were tears of emotion and gratitude. "Today's wedding," Liam continued, "will have no bride, but the party will go on. I hope all our distinguished guests will stay and consider this a party to celebrate the truth." The entire hall erupted in applause. They were not applauding for a wedding, but for the courage and victory of justice. Just when I thought it was all over, a sharp scream came from the bride, who was collapsed on the floor. Sophia leaped up, tore a sharp hairpin from her hairdo, and with a crazed look, lunged at me. "It's all your fault. It's all your fault." Sophia's crazed action was so fast and sudden that it left everyone stunned. The hairpin, glinting under the stage lights, flew towards me like a poisoned arrow. I stood frozen, my mind blank. I realized the imminent danger, but I couldn't react. Liam, beside me, didn't have time to intervene either. When the tip of the hairpin was just inches from my face, a shadow shot out from behind me like a lightning bolt. It was none other than Ethan. He threw his whole body in front of me. The sharp tip of the hairpin grazed his shoulder, leaving a red bloodstain on his white shirt. "Ah!" Ethan cried out in pain, staggering backward. Sophia seemed shocked by her own action and by Ethan's reaction. She dropped the hairpin and stood there, stunned, her face pale. It was then that the hotel security guards rushed to restrain her and led her away. The hall fell into chaos again. Liam rushed to help Ethan. "Are you okay?" Ethan, his face contorted in pain, shook his head. He didn't look at Liam but at me. His gaze was very complex. There was regret, pain, and somehow a kind of relief. "Chloe, are you okay?" I looked at the bloodstain on his shoulder, my heart filled with mixed emotions. Why had he done it? How could the man who had deceived and used me without mercy risk his life to protect me? Or was this another act? An attempt to gain my last shred of compassion? "Take him to the first aid room immediately," Liam ordered the hotel staff. As Ethan was being led away, the two plainclothes detectives also took Mr. Caldwell away. The CEO of Aurelian Holdings no longer looked imposing. He was just a defeated old man, walking with his head down amidst the accusations and contempt of the people. The wedding farce had finally come to an end. Liam took the microphone again and tried to calm the guests. "Ladies and gentlemen, once again, I apologize for the unexpected incident. Our party will have to end here. On behalf of my family, I sincerely thank you all for your attendance." The guests began to leave one by one, taking with them an unforgettable story. What had been a splendid wedding hall now looked desolate and cold, like a ruin. Liam and I stood silently in the empty space. Extreme exhaustion washed over us. "It's all over, Chloe," Liam said, patting my shoulder gently. I nodded, but a big question still lingered in my mind. "Brother, how did you know everything? The company acquisition plan, Mr. Caldwell's role. How did you know?" Liam looked at me and gave a sad smile. "Because I wasn't the only one who wanted to unmask him. My brother told me another story, a story that had been hidden for years. Before he passed away, our father was a close friend and business partner of Mr. Caldwell. Together, they laid the first bricks for both companies. But it was that same Mr. Caldwell who, with dirty tricks, cheated our father out of all his shares and drove him to bankruptcy. That blow made our father fall ill, and soon after, his health deteriorated and he passed away. I always had my doubts about my father's death." Liam's voice became graver. "After inheriting the company, I started investigating secretly and gradually found evidence of his crimes. But he was too cunning and covered all his tracks skillfully. I never had enough proof to bring him down. Until Sophia appeared," my brother continued. "At first, I was also deceived by her innocent appearance, but I realized there were too many coincidences. She always casually mentioned projects where Aurelian Holdings was competing with us. So I had her investigated and discovered the relationship between her and Mr. Caldwell. I realized he was trying to repeat the same script with me as he did with my father, and I decided this was my chance to avenge our father." Hearing this, I felt a lump in my throat. Behind the company's success, my brother had been carrying such a heavy burden of revenge. He had had to live a lie, act with the woman he was about to marry, waiting for the day he could bring down his enemy. "So, everything was in your plan." "Most of it, yes," Liam nodded, "except for one thing. I didn't know your husband was also part of his plan, and much less that you would be the trigger for all of this. Your appearance, your courage, was the unexpected variable, the decisive blow that made him fall without having time to react." My brother looked at me with pride. "My little sister, you've really grown up." I managed to smile through my tears. We had won together, as siblings. We had won. Shortly after, a hotel employee came to inform us that Ethan had received first aid. The wound wasn't deep, but he had to go to the hospital for a tetanus shot and a more thorough checkup. He said he wanted to talk to me alone for a moment before he left. I hesitated a bit, but finally nodded. In the end, I wanted to know if there was any sincerity left in him. I entered the first aid room. Ethan was sitting on a cot, his shoulder bandaged. He looked disheveled. His designer suit was wrinkled and discarded, his shirt stained with blood, and his face lacked all vitality. When he saw me, he looked up with a guilt-ridden gaze. I'm sorry, Chloe." "What good is an apology now?" I asked coldly. "I don't expect you to forgive me," he said, lowering his head. "I just wanted to tell you one thing. The moment I jumped to protect you, that was real. It wasn't an act." I looked at him in silence. "For the past 5 years," he continued in a hoarse voice, "I've been living a lie. I approached you because of Mr. Caldwell's plan, for the money. But then, I started to have real feelings for you. Your sweetness, your kindness. It moved my heart. But I was in too deep. I couldn't turn back. I wanted you, and I also wanted the money and status. Greed clouded my judgment." He looked up at me, and tears started to well in his eyes. "Today, when you were in danger, I realized the only thing I wanted to protect was you. But it's too late for everything." I listened to his belated confession without any emotion in my heart. Love? Perhaps there was some, but the betrayal and the damage he caused had killed that love. "Save those words for the judge," I said, my voice expressionless. "Between us, everything is over." I turned and walked out, leaving him alone with his regret and his late tears. The moment the first aid room door closed, the door to my 5 years of marriage also closed, officially and forever. A week after the stormy wedding, things gradually began to calm down, but the aftermath was still enormous. The Aurelian Holdings case became a scandal that shook the business world. Mr. Caldwell, Sophia, and several other top executives were arrested and investigated for fraud, embezzlement, and industrial espionage. Despite his act of saving me, Ethan couldn't escape his involvement. As a key part of the plan, he was summoned to testify and face the inevitable justice. I filed for divorce, and the whole process was carried out quickly and without dispute. We decided to sell our house, our only valuable shared asset. I didn't want to keep anything that reminded me of a past filled with lies. After everything was settled, I felt I needed some time for myself. I decided to take a trip alone, to go somewhere far away to clear my head and start a new life. I chose Napa Valley, California, a place quiet enough to heal my wounds. During my days in Napa, I didn't visit many places. I simply spent my time walking along scenic trails, sitting in small, charming cafes, reading and writing. After so many storms, I realized that what I really needed was peace of mind. One cool afternoon, as I was sitting in a rustic wooden cafe overlooking a vineyard, sketching out ideas for a new company project, a familiar voice sounded beside me. Well, small world. I looked up, surprised. It was the police officer who had handled a minor car accident case for me a year prior. His sudden appearance was a bit disconcerting. He was no longer in his strict uniform, but in a comfortable khaki jacket and jeans. He looked much younger and more approachable. The afternoon Napa breeze slightly tousled his thick, dark hair. "Hi," I smiled, trying to hide my surprise. "What a coincidence to see you here. Are you on vacation?" "You could say that," he replied. A gentle smile revealed a slight dimple. "I got transferred here a few weeks ago. You could say I'm starting a new life." He glanced at my notebook and pen. "You were working." "Sorry to interrupt." No, I was just finishing up," I said, quickly closing the notebook. Then he hesitated a bit. "Would you mind if I sit here for a moment? The cafe is very crowded, and this is the only free spot." I looked around, and indeed, the charming little cafe was packed. "Yes, of course, please sit." He pulled up a chair and sat across from me, ordering a hot latte. There was a slightly awkward silence between us. I didn't know what to say, and he also seemed to be looking for a suitable topic of conversation. At the wedding that day, he finally broke the silence. "I saw everything. You were very brave." His words surprised me a little. I thought he had only been there to handle the arrest, and was surprised he had noticed other things. "Thank you. Fortunately, it's all over now." "I'm David," he introduced himself suddenly. "Chloe," I replied. "Nice to meet you, David." We started talking. At first, it was just light conversation about Napa Valley, work, and personal hobbies, but gradually the conversation deepened. David told me why he had been transferred. After years of working in the stressful environment of New York, he felt burned out and wanted to live and work in a quieter place. He loved the mountains, the forests, and the fresh air of the valley. I also shared my story, not the painful details of the betrayal, but my decision to leave the city and my desire to find a new balance in life. We realized we had something in common. We were both on a journey to find a new beginning. David was a very engaging person to talk to. He was intelligent and funny, but in his eyes, there was something quiet and deep, typical of someone who has lived a lot. Talking to him made me feel very comfortable, a feeling I hadn't experienced in a long time. The sky began to darken, and the warm yellow lights of the cafe came on, creating a very romantic atmosphere. I don't know how long we were talking. "It's getting late," David said, looking at his watch. "I have to get back to the station. It was a pleasure talking to you, Chloe." "You too," I smiled. "Oh, this weekend." He hesitated again. "I'm planning a hike in the hills, and I was wondering, if you're not busy, would you like to come?" His invitation made my heart skip a beat. "Hiking? I've never really done it." "All the more reason you should try," he smiled. "The air there is incredible. It helps to release all the stress." I thought for a moment and then nodded. "Yes, I'd love to." After that chance encounter, David and I had our first date. We hiked in the mountains together, walked through vast pine forests, and discovered small, hidden restaurants in the alleys of Street Helena. With David by my side, I was no longer the woman who had to be strong, the one who had to distrust everyone. He gave me a strange sense of security and peace. He didn't ask about my past or make me relive painful memories. He just stayed by my side in silence, sharing the small joys of life with me. The feelings between us grew naturally and gently, like the morning mist in Napa. One evening, as we were sitting by Lake Berryessa, watching the tranquil water reflect the moonlight, David suddenly took my hand. "Chloe," his voice was deep and warm, "I know you've been through a lot. I don't want to stir up old wounds. I just want to say that, if you'll let me, I'd like to be the person who writes a new chapter of your life with you, a chapter full of joy and happiness." I looked into his sincere eyes, and my heart was moved. Tears welled up again, but this time they were tears of happiness. I said nothing, just nodded and squeezed his warm hand tightly. 2 years later, "Mommy, hurry up! Daddy and Uncle Liam are waiting outside." My little daughter Ava's cheerful voice sounded from the door. I smiled and adjusted the bow in her hair. "Mommy's coming, my princess." I looked at myself in the mirror. I saw the image of a woman radiant with happiness. Today was a special day. It was my first wedding anniversary with David, and also the day the whole family was going to New York for the opening of a new branch of the Miller Corporation. My life had completely changed. After that fateful trip to Napa Valley, I found the true love and happiness of my life. David, after we had been dating for a while, decided to request a transfer back to New York to be by my side. He said that wherever I was, that was where his peace would be. We had a small, warm wedding on the beach, with only our loved ones. My brother Liam also found his own happiness after all the storms. He fell in love with a kind teacher, and they recently had their first child, a healthy boy. The Miller Corporation, under Liam's leadership and with my support, grew spectacularly, becoming one of the leading companies in its sector. As the car drove along the familiar highway, Ava sat on my lap, chattering and pointing at everything she saw out the window. David, in the driver's seat, turned around from time to time to look at me and our daughter with a look full of love. When the car passed by a large prison, I suddenly fell silent. I knew that inside there were people paying for their mistakes. I had heard that Ethan was going to receive a reduced sentence soon for his good behavior. I also heard that Sophia had suffered a real mental breakdown and had been transferred to a psychiatric hospital for treatment, and Mr. Caldwell, old and sick, finally broke down behind bars. I no longer hated them. My heart was now filled with peace. All the hatred was behind me, and love and forgiveness had taken its place. The opening party was a great success. Amidst the bustling atmosphere, I received a beautiful bouquet of white roses with no sender's name. Inside was a small card with shaky handwriting, typical of an elderly person. "Congratulations, may you be very happy." I knew who it was from, probably someone, somewhere, was watching me and sincerely wishing me the best. That night after the party, when Ava was fast asleep, David and I stood on the hotel balcony, looking at the bright lights of the New York night. He hugged me from behind and rested his chin on my shoulder. "Thank you," he whispered, "for coming into my life, for making my days meaningful." I smiled, turned around, and rested my head on his firm chest. I should be more grateful. Thank you for healing all the wounds within me. We hugged in silence, fully feeling the happiness of the present. Life is truly like a long journey with countless unpredictable forks. There were times when I thought I had fallen into the abyss of despair, but it was in the darkest place that I found the light of my life. A new beginning, a new happiness. Everything was here, in my arms. After the trip to New York, we returned to our quiet routine. Our small house was once again filled with Ava's laughter and the warmth of family. My brother Liam also came over often on weekends with his wife and son. Seeing my daughter and my nephew playing together, I felt my heart was completely healed. The past seemed very distant, just an old story I remembered from time to time. The anonymous white roses and the card from the opening day, I simply regarded as a late apology from some relative of Ethan's. I didn't want to think about it or give it more importance. I put the card in a corner of a drawer and locked it, as if closing an old chapter of my life. But life is not always as calm as a lake. The first ripples began to form so subtly that at first I thought it was just my hypersensitivity due to everything I had been through. Sometimes, while driving down the street, I had the feeling that a familiar black sedan was following me, but when I looked closer in the rearview mirror, the car would disappear into traffic. Once, while playing with Ava in a park near our house, I felt a fixed gaze on me and my daughter from a distant bench. It was a middle-aged woman, dressed very elegantly, with a wide-brimmed hat and sunglasses that covered part of her face. When I looked at her again, she immediately turned her head and left the park in a hurry. When I told David about this, he just laughed and hugged me. "You're overthinking things again. You're a successful and beautiful executive now. It's normal for some admirer to look at you." But I knew my husband was saying it to reassure me. His police instincts also kept him silently on alert. "I'll check the security cameras around the house. It never hurts to be cautious," he added. That incident was also soon forgotten. Until Ava's second birthday. The party was an intimate one at home, just with Liam's family, us, and a few close friends. While everyone was cheerfully singing happy birthday, the doorbell suddenly rang. David went to open it and came back with a beautifully wrapped gift box in his hand, but his expression was a bit strange. "And of Sevente? It's from a courier service," he said. "It's a gift for Ava, but there's no sender's name." We were all surprised. I took the gift box, and a vague unease washed over me. The box was wrapped in high-quality gift paper, tied with a very elaborate pink silk ribbon. Clearly, the sender had taken great care. "Could it be from some business partner who appreciates you?" Liam guessed. I thought so too. It was probably a business gift. I opened the box carefully under everyone's curious gaze. Inside, on a soft velvet lining, was a small and beautiful white gold bracelet, exquisitely crafted. The charm on the bracelet was a finely carved lotus flower, with a small diamond in the center that sparkled under the light. It was a very valuable gift, but what made me freeze was not its value, but the small card that came with it. The handwriting on the card was soft, elegant, and very familiar. I opened the card with trembling hands, and inside was a single short line. "Happy birthday to our little one. From her grandmother." Our little one. From her grandmother. The word grandmother was like a lightning bolt that struck my mind. Who was the grandmother? My mother had passed away. My mother-in-law, David's mother, lives in the countryside and doesn't write with such refined handwriting, and certainly not my trembling ex-mother-in-law. I picked up the card and compared it with the handwriting on the card from the white roses I received at the opening. They were identical. It was the same person, a person who called herself my daughter's grandmother. "Chloe, what's wrong?" "You're as pale as a sheet," David said, shaking my shoulder with concern. I didn't answer, just showed him the card. David read the card and then furrowed his handsome brows. He picked up the bracelet and examined it carefully. "This is very strange," he said. "Who is this person?" How does she know Ava's birthday and send such an expensive gift? I collapsed into a chair, my mind in a mess. Scattered images suddenly came to my mind. The black sedan that followed me, the mysterious woman in the park, the anonymous white roses, and now a white gold bracelet with a note saying, "From her grandmother." All of this was not a coincidence. Someone, a woman, was silently watching my life and my daughter's. She knew a lot about us, was very rich, and called herself Ava's grandmother. But how was that possible? My mother had died years ago in a terrible car accident. I myself saw the photo from her funeral, and together with Liam, we held her burial. There could be no mistake. So, who was this woman? A distant relative I didn't know, or a much more terrible secret I had no idea about? I looked at my little daughter. Ava was still laughing and chattering innocently, completely unaware of the storm that was silently brewing around her. I felt a lump in my throat. I would not allow anyone to harm my daughter. I had to find out the truth. Whoever that mysterious woman was, whatever her purpose was, I had to find her. The quiet life I had worked so hard to achieve seemed to be facing a new storm again, a storm that was blowing from the very past I thought I knew so well. The mysterious birthday gift completely shattered the cheerful atmosphere of the party. After all the guests had left, only we and Liam's family remained at home. My brother examined the bracelet, his face as serious as mine. "This is not a simple matter," he said in a low voice. "A custom-made baby bracelet like this, white gold with a diamond, must cost tens of thousands of dollars. This person is no ordinary individual." My sister-in-law, a wise and delicate woman, also spoke up. "Couldn't it be someone from your ex-husband's family, Chloe? Maybe they're trying to get close to the child that way." "Impossible," I shook my head firmly. "They have no reason to, and more importantly, this handwriting isn't theirs." David remained silent for a while, deep in thought, and finally spoke with the seriousness of a police officer. "The first thing we need to do is trace the origin of this gift. I'll take the box and wrapping to the crime lab. We might find fingerprints or other clues. And I'll review all the security cameras on the streets near our house today to track the courier's vehicle." Liam nodded in agreement. "Right. I'll also use my contacts to ask major jewelers if anyone recognizes this bracelet design. The lotus design is quite unique. It's likely a custom order." Our conversation reached a dead end. Although we considered several hypotheses, none could explain the appearance of this person who called herself grandmother. That night I couldn't sleep a wink. I hugged my little daughter, watching her sleeping face. An invisible fear enveloped me. Who was this woman? What did she want with my daughter? Did she have bad intentions? The following days passed in a state of anxiety and worry. David and Liam did everything they could to investigate, but all leads seemed to hit a dead end. The courier service was a small company, and the sender had paid in cash and used a fake name. The security cameras only showed an ordinary delivery person, nothing special. No jeweler recognized the bracelet's design. The mysterious woman seemed to have calculated everything meticulously, leaving no trace. Seeing that the investigation was stalled, I felt even more anxious. I decided I couldn't just wait passively. I had to find the answers myself. I decided to start with my past, with what I knew about my mother. I took a few days off from work, left Ava with my mother-in-law, and returned alone to my parents' old house in the town where my brother and I grew up. I hadn't been back in a long time. The house was still the same, covered in the dust of time, but every corner evoked warm memories of my mother. I started cleaning the attic, where my mother kept old items and family keepsakes. I hoped to find, among those seemingly insignificant objects, some clue about the mysterious woman, some secret my mother never told us. I flipped through the old photo albums one by one. Black and white photos, faded color photos. My mother, beautiful and radiant in her youth. My parents, happy on their wedding day. And photos of Liam and me as children, smiling innocently in our parents' arms. I looked them over and over, but I saw no woman who looked luxurious and unfamiliar. Just as I was about to give up, my hand brushed against a small wooden box hidden at the bottom of an old trunk. The box was locked with a small, rusty padlock. After struggling for a while, I managed to open it. Inside, there were no jewels or money, but a stack of yellowed letters, carefully tied with a purple ribbon. I picked up the stack of letters with trembling hands. The handwriting was neither my mother's nor my father's. It was the handwriting of a soft, elegant woman, identical to the one on Ava's birthday card. I felt my heart stop. I quickly opened the first letter. My dearest sister Catherine, a year has passed since that fateful day. I still can't forget how you saved me from that car about to explode. I don't know how I can ever repay you for this favor. I'm sending you a small gift. Please accept it. I know you'll refuse, but please don't. Consider it a small token from me for the 2 children you have at home. I must leave now. I can't stay in this place that has taken everything from me. Perhaps one day, when everything calms down, we will meet again. With all my love, Adrian. I reread the letter several times, my mind in a turmoil. Sister Catherine? That was undoubtedly my mother. A car accident? A savior? My mother had never told us that story. And Adrian? Who was that woman? Why did she write to my mother? I quickly read the following letters. They were letters sent from abroad, from France and Switzerland. Adrian told my mother about her new life, her loneliness, the torment of having had to leave her home. She always asked about Liam and me, and she always sent us expensive gifts, gifts that my mother probably never told us we had. The last letter was dated about 5 years ago, and the handwriting was a bit shakier. Sister Catherine, I believe my time is short. This illness has tormented me for too long. My only regret is that I never came back to take care of my 2 children. I know I don't deserve to. I abandoned them. But please, sister, love them for me. Tell them that wherever I am, their mother will always be watching over them and loving them. I am sending you this key. It is the key to a personal safe deposit box in a Swiss bank. Inside is all the fortune I have amassed. Please give it to my children when they are older. Consider it the final compensation from a sinful mother. Goodbye, my sister, my friend, and my savior, Adrian. The letter fell from my hands. My whole body was shaking. Children, mother, the whole truth, an incredible truth, was slowly revealing itself before my eyes. This woman, Adrian, she was. No, it couldn't be. My mother was Catherine Miller, and she was dead. There had to be a mistake. But this stack of letters, this key, and the familiar handwriting, I sat there, stunned, in the middle of the dusty attic, my mind filled with confusion. The past I knew, the identity I believed in, everything suddenly felt blurry and strange. A huge family secret, a secret buried for over 20 years, was about to be opened, and it was directly related to me. That night, I couldn't sleep a minute. The stack of Adrian's letters and the small key lay silently on the desk, but my mind was a whirlwind. Her mother, 2 children, those phrases repeated over and over, stabbing deep into my heart. I tried to dismiss the crazy idea that Liam and I were not the biological children of the woman we always called Mom. But everything fit together in a terrifying way: the handwriting, the expensive gifts, and the term grandmother for Ava. The next morning I couldn't wait any longer. I had to find Liam. He had to know too. He was my brother, my only family. He had a right to know the truth about our roots. I drove hastily back to the city. I went straight to my brother's office. Seeing my haggard look and sunken eyes, he questioned me with concern. I said nothing. I just silently closed the office door and placed the stack of letters and the key on his desk. "Read it," I said in a hoarse voice. Liam, surprised, picked up the first letter. As he read, his expression changed from surprise to astonishment and shock. He read every letter, and the hand holding the paper began to tremble. When he finished the last letter, he collapsed into his chair, staring into space with lost eyes. "No, it can't be," he muttered, shaking his head over and over. "Our mother is Catherine. Who is this Adrian?" "I thought so too," I said bitterly. "But brother, look at this handwriting. It's identical to the one on Ava's birthday card." I showed him the photo of the card I had taken with my phone. Liam stared at both handwritings. The last shred of doubt in his eyes vanished. He covered his face with his hands, and his broad shoulders shook. For the first time in my life, I saw my always strong and steady brother so fragile and helpless. We sat in silence for a long time, each lost in our own confused thoughts. The past we knew, the mother we loved, had all suddenly become a big question mark. "So, Mom Catherine?" Liam lifted his head, his voice hoarse. "Wasn't our biological mother. She raised us, she loved us. Why did she hide this from us?" "I don't know," I shook my head. "But I think she had her reasons. Mom Adrian said she had to leave, that she couldn't stay. Something terrible must have happened. A car accident." That clue came back to my mind. Mom Adrian said Mom Catherine saved her. Yes, the secret must be in that car accident, Liam. I looked my brother straight in the eye. "We have to find out the truth, not just for us, but for both our mothers." Liam nodded, his gaze becoming much more determined. "You're right. We have to find out what exactly happened 25 years ago." Our investigation began with the vague clues from the letters, the car accident, the date, and the name Adrian. Thanks to Liam's social standing and David's police contacts, it wasn't too difficult to reopen the old case files, covered in the dust of time. A few days later, we got the accident report. It was a terrible crash in the Rocky Mountains. A luxury car lost control and plunged off a cliff, exploding. According to the report, 4 people were in the car: the CEO of the Rivas Jewelers Group and his wife, and the driver and his wife. It was concluded that all 4 had died. Rivas Jewelers. That name stunned Liam and me. It was an empire that once dominated the American jewelry industry, but mysteriously collapsed shortly after its CEO's death. "Wait a minute," said Liam. "Rivas. I remember. Our father worked at Rivas before founding the Miller Corporation. He was the CFO there." Another coincidence. Everything seemed to be connected. "But the report says all 4 died," I said, puzzled. "So who is Mom Adrian, and why did she say Mom Catherine saved her?" "That's the key," intervened David, who was sitting with us. He pointed to a part of the autopsy report. Of the 4 bodies found, one was so badly burned it was unrecognizable. Based on some bone fragments, they could only confirm it was a woman, and people assumed it was the wife of the Rivas CEO, Mrs. Adrian. That means, I held my breath, that it's very likely that woman was not Mrs. Adrian, David concluded. Mrs. Adrian survived the accident, and it's possible that the person who saved her was our mother, Catherine. But for some reason, she chose to become a dead person in everyone's eyes and live another life abroad. But why? Why would a woman with status, money, and everything else abandon it all, even her 2 children? This accident, Liam mused, was it really an accident, or was it murder? My brother's question silenced the room. If it was murder, who was the mastermind, and why did Mom Adrian have to flee? At that moment, David's phone rang. It was an old colleague from New York. He stepped out to answer and came back with a very serious expression. "New information," he said. "I asked them to check the list of top executives at Rivas Jewelers from that time. Guess who was appointed acting CEO right after the death of CEO Rivas and his wife?" "Who?" Liam and I asked in unison. "It was him," David's voice became firm. "The CEO of Aurelian Holdings, Mr. Caldwell." That name appeared once again. Our family's old enemy, the man who drove our father to his death. A wave of nausea and anger rose in my throat. "This can't be a coincidence," Liam slammed the table. "Caldwell, our father, Rivas Jewelers, and that car accident. There has to be a connection." A dark and terrible picture was beginning to take shape. A conspiracy hidden for 25 years. A crime that not only claimed several lives, but also shattered a family. And now, by chance, we seemed to be getting closer to the heart of that secret. The search for our roots had unexpectedly turned into the pursuit of the truth of a serial murder case. And the most likely suspect was our family's arch-nemesis. The name Mr. Caldwell was like the key that opened a dark door to the terrible secrets of the past. All the events now came together in a terrifying hypothesis. Mr. Caldwell had not only driven our father to his death to take over the Miller Corporation, but it was very likely that 25 years earlier, he was behind that terrible accident to devour the entire Rivas Jewelers Group. If that's true, Liam gritted his teeth. He's not human, he's a demon. But all of this is just conjecture for now. said David, trying to maintain the calm of a law professional. "We don't have concrete evidence to charge him. The case is too old, and almost all traces have likely been erased." "And Mom Adrian," I intervened. "If she's alive, she's the most important witness. She'll know exactly what happened. But why did she flee? Why didn't she come forward to report it?" "She was probably scared," Liam replied. "The enemy was too powerful. She had to worry not only about herself but also about her 2 children. Perhaps becoming a dead person was the only way to protect us." I felt a lump in my throat. My biological mother's departure was not an abandonment, but a silent sacrifice. She had to give up everything for the safety of her 2 children, living in loneliness and torment in a foreign country. And our mother, Catherine, who raised us, was also part of that sacrifice. She lived her whole life with that secret locked in her heart. "What do we do now?" I asked, looking alternately at David and Liam. "Go to Switzerland to find Mom Adrian?" I suggested. "No," David and Liam opposed, almost in unison. "It's too dangerous," David explained. "Mr. Caldwell is a cunning old fox. His information network is everywhere. If he finds out we're investigating, he won't hesitate to use any means to silence us, just like he did with your father. Besides, we're not sure Mom Adrian wants to see us. The last letter was written 5 years ago, and no one knows what situation she's in now." "David is right," Liam continued. "What we need to do now is look for evidence here first. The safe deposit box key is the most important clue. It's very likely that the fortune Mom Adrian left not only contains money, but also something that can expose Mr. Caldwell's crimes." "But that's a Swiss bank," I said worriedly. "Their bank secrecy laws are the strictest in the world. Even if we have the key, I don't think I can just go and open it myself." "Leave it to me," Liam said with a determined look. "I have a lawyer friend who specializes in international law. I'll ask him to find a solution. It might take time, but it's not impossible." While Liam handled the Switzerland issue, David and I decided to start from another angle, looking for former witnesses who worked at Revis Jewelers at the time of the accident. 25 years is a long time, but surely there were still people who knew what happened, people who had to keep silent due to Mr. Caldwell's oppression, bribery, or threats. Our search was very difficult. Many people had moved, many had passed away. Those who remained, upon mentioning the names Revis Jewelers and Mr. Caldwell, all shook their heads in fear and refused to talk. Mr. Caldwell's power and cruelty had cast such a large shadow that it had oppressed them for decades. After several days of desperate searching, we finally had a stroke of luck. We found Mr. Paul, the retired former chauffeur of the Revis CEO's family. He was now a frail old man living alone in a small house in the suburbs. When we arrived, he was sitting on his porch, looking into the distance with sad eyes. At first, he also refused to talk, but when I showed him the photo of Mom Adrian and told him my identity, his old eyes filled with tears. "Miss, are you Miss Chloe?" he asked in a trembling voice. When I nodded, Mr. Paul burst into tears. "My God, you're alive. I thought the whole CEO's family." He invited us into his house. After calming down, he began to tell the story of 25 years ago, a story he had kept in his heart like a nightmare. "The day of the accident," Mr. Paul said in a trembling voice, "I was supposed to drive that car. But that morning, the then vice president, Mr. Caldwell, suddenly sent me to another state on an errand. He said it was urgent and sent another driver in my place. He was a young kid who had just started. I didn't know him well. When I heard the news of the accident, I felt something was wrong," he continued. "That car was the CEO's. I checked it every day. It was impossible for the brakes to fail. I tried to tell the police, but no one believed me. They said I was rambling from grief, and a few days later Mr. Tell the police. Caldwell sent someone to give me a large sum of money and threatened that if I kept talking, my family would not be safe. Out of fear for my children." Mr. Paul hung his head, his voice filled with regret. I had to keep silent. I took the money and left the job. For these 25 years, I haven't slept a single night in peace. Remorse and guilt have constantly tormented me. Mr. Paul's testimony was living proof that the accident was not a coincidence but a meticulously planned conspiracy. Mr. Caldwell, Mr. Paul added, was not only cruel but also very distrustful. He always had a small recorder installed in the CEO's office to monitor all his conversations. I once accidentally saw him secretly changing the batteries. A flash of insight struck me. A recorder. If it was still there, it was very likely that it had recorded important conversations, evidence that could expose Mr. Caldwell's crimes. But where's that office? Rivas Jewelers no longer exists. Its old headquarters must now be owned by another company. When we felt lost, Mr. Paul provided another valuable piece of information. After the CEO's death, Mr. Caldwell sealed his entire old office. He said it was to preserve his memories, but I know he was scared that someone would find something inside. That room is still intact, on the top floor of the old Rivas building. All the clues seem to converge on one point: a room sealed for 25 years that might contain the black box of the entire case. But how could we get into such a heavily guarded place owned by another group? The old Rivas building was now called Aurelian Tower, standing in the city center like an impregnable fortress. Infiltrating it, especially the sealed room on the top floor, was an almost impossible mission for ordinary people like us. "This can't be done through normal channels," David said after circling the building. "The security system here is state-of-the-art. There are surveillance cameras everywhere and guards patrolling 24/7. The access doors on each floor use magnetic cards. It's impossible to get in through the front door." While we were racking our brains, we finally received a call from Liam, who had been silent for several days, with important news. "I've spoken with my lawyer friend. He says that as biological children, we have the full right to request information about our mother's safe deposit box at the Swiss bank. But the process is very complicated and will take at least a few months." But he discovered something interesting. 5 years ago, right when Mom Adrian sent the last letter, someone else tried to access that safe deposit box, but failed due to lack of identity documents. "Who?" I asked anxiously. "It was Mr. Caldwell's people." A chill ran down my spine. He also knew about the existence of that safe deposit box. He had been looking for it for years. This confirmed to us even more that inside there was something that threatened him, and it also meant that we didn't have much time left. If Mr. Caldwell discovered we were investigating, he wouldn't hesitate to act first. The urgency of the situation forced us to make a bold decision. "If we can't get in through the front door," I said, looking at David and Liam, "we'll get in another way. Aurelian Tower and our Miller Tower are right next to each other. The height of the roofs of both buildings is almost the same." "Don't tell me." Liam looked at me in amazement. "No, Chloe, it's too dangerous." "It's the only way," I said firmly. "We don't have any more time. You can disable the security system of Miller Tower. David has the technology and experience as a police officer, and I have to get in there. That room is related to my past." After a long discussion, they both had to reluctantly agree. The plan was drawn up with great detail and caution. The time of action was set for 2 a.m., when activity in both buildings comes to a complete halt. That night, the city slept. Only the faint lights of the street lamps remained. When I stood on the roof of Miller Tower with David, my heart was pounding like a drum. The wind at that height whipped my hair fiercely. From here, the roof of Aurelian Tower seemed to be only about 15 feet away. It wasn't a great distance, but it was an abyss between life and death. David carefully prepared the equipment. He was an expert at this. He used a special gun to launch a high-strength cable to the railing of the opposite building. The cable was firmly anchored at both ends. "I'll go first," David said in a deep, reassuring voice. "When I cross and secure the area, you'll slide down the rope. Don't be afraid. I'll hold you tight." I nodded. My palms were already damp with sweat. I held my breath as I watched David deftly hang from the rope and cross the dark void. A few minutes later, he arrived safely on the other side and signaled to me. It was my turn. I took a deep breath and clung tightly to the cold rope. My whole body was suspended in the night sky. Below, the city lights seemed distant, and a small mistake could make me fall. But the thought of my mother, of the truth that awaited me on the other side, gave me strength. When my feet touched the railing of Aurelian Tower, David rushed to help me. "You did it," he whispered proudly. We quickly disabled the roof cameras and found our way to the emergency stairs. The sealed office was just on the floor below. The old lock was no problem for David. The heavy door creaked open, revealing a space that had been plunged into darkness and dust for 25 years. We turned on a small flashlight, and the dim light scanned the room. Everything was as Mr. Paul had described. The desk, the bookshelf, the sofa set, all covered in a thick layer of dust. The stale air smelled of time. According to Mr. Paul, the recorder was hidden behind a large oil painting on the wall. David carefully took down the painting. Sure enough, an old cassette recorder was cleverly installed in a small recess in the wall. "Will it still work?" I asked worriedly. "It's hard to say," David replied, "but let's take it anyway." While David dismantled the device, I started searching further. I intuitively felt there had to be something else in that room. The light of my flashlight scanned the bookshelf. Hundreds of old leather-bound books, mostly on management and law. Suddenly, I remembered a habit of my father's. As a CFO, he also always carried a small notebook where he jotted down the most important things, the secrets he didn't want anyone to know. Would CEO Rivas have a similar habit? I started pulling out the books one by one, flipping through the pages quickly. And when I picked up a thick law book titled Justice and Truth, I noticed it was strangely heavy. When I opened it, I felt my heart stop. The inside of the book was hollowed out, leaving a space just for a small black leather-bound notebook. I picked it up with trembling hands. This is it. It has to be this. Just then, we heard footsteps and a faint murmur of voices from the hallway. Checked the roof area carefully. I think I saw a suspicious shadow. I felt my heart drop to my stomach. We had been discovered. The building's security guards were on patrol. The way back was blocked. We were trapped in this secret room. The footsteps in the hallway grew closer. The light from the security team's flashlight seeped through the crack under the door, creating ghostly shadows in the dusty room. I felt a knot in my chest, and a cold sweat ran down my back. If we were caught here, with this evidence in hand, our entire plan would be ruined. We would be charged with trespassing, and the notebook and recorder would never see the light of day. David motioned for me to be silent. He quickly turned off the flashlight and pulled me behind a huge old filing cabinet. We held our breath, trying not to make the slightest sound. We heard the jingle of a key in the lock. My heart was about to burst. They were coming in. "This room has been sealed for a long time." "Who would come in here?" one voice said. "Better safe than sorry," replied another. "Lately, the boss has been telling us to keep a close eye on this area." The boss had to be someone from Mr. Caldwell's camp. Despite so many years, he was still having this place watched. That confirmed even more that he knew very well what was hidden in here. The lock clicked, and the door creaked open. A dazzling beam of flashlight light swept across the room. David and I almost stopped breathing, pressed against the cold filing cabinet. Fortunately, the cabinet was very large, and we were hiding in the deepest corner. "See, nothing, just dust and cobwebs," the first voice said again. "Come on, let's check other places." They lingered at the door for a few more seconds. The light scanned the room again, and then the door slammed shut. We heard the lock click again, and the footsteps faded away. We were safe, at least for now. I let out a sigh of relief, feeling my strength fail me. David motioned for me to wait a little longer. About 10 minutes later, when we were sure the security team had moved on, he turned the small flashlight back on. "We have to get out of here now," he whispered. "The way we came is no longer safe." "But how?" "The main door is locked, and there are guards in the hallway." We were completely trapped. David's gaze scanned the room and stopped at a small ventilation window near the ceiling. "That's the only way out." That window was very small and high up, barely enough for one person to pass through. Moreover, it opened onto the building's facade. Outside, there was only a narrow ledge, barely a foot wide, running along the wall. "It's too dangerous," I shook my head. "One small misstep, and—" "It's the only option," David said firmly. "Do you trust me?" In this critical situation, his calm and determination were my only support. I nodded. David moved the old desk against the wall and stacked a chair on top. He climbed up first and carefully unlatched the window. A gust of cold night air rushed in. "That ledge leads to an emergency balcony at the end of the hall," he explained. "It's about 30 feet away. I'll go first and come back to help you. You just have to stick to the wall and walk very slowly." With that, he slipped out the window and carefully stepped onto the narrow ledge. My heart leaped into my throat watching him. A strong gust of wind could have sent him falling, but David moved with great professionalism. His steps were firm, his back pressed against the wall. A few minutes later, he reached the emergency balcony safely and signaled to me. It was my turn. The notebook and recorder were safely tucked into my crossbody bag. I took a deep breath, trying not to look down. My legs trembled as I stepped onto the ledge. I felt my whole body press against the cold wall. The wind whistled in my ears, carrying the sounds of the city at night. "Don't be afraid. Just look at me," I heard David's voice from ahead. A deep, calm, and reassuring voice, just one step at a time. I focused on David's figure, trying not to think about the deep abyss below. 30 feet had never seemed so long. When my hand finally touched the one David held out to me, I felt like I had come back to life. We went down several floors via the emergency stairs and then found a way back into the main hallway. Fortunately, the security team was patrolling another area. We quickly returned to the roof and crossed back to Miller Tower on the rope. When my feet touched familiar ground, I collapsed, panting. The suffocating escape was finally over. Back in the safety of my apartment, we didn't rest but immediately began examining what we had brought back. Liam had also arrived and listened to our story with a worried expression. David carefully opened the old recorder. After fiddling with it for a while, he managed to get it working. We held our breath and listened intently. The old cassette tape began to turn, emitting the static of time. And then we heard a familiar voice, that of CEO Rivas, my biological father. He was talking on the phone. "I don't agree, Vice President Caldwell. That project is too risky. The cash flow isn't transparent. I can't approve it." After a brief silence, his voice became sharper. "I've told you before, don't try to fool me. I know what you're doing behind my back. If you don't stop, I will reveal everything to the world." The call ended, and my heart was pounding. This was proof of the conflict between my father and Mr. Caldwell. But the next recording truly stunned us. This time, it was Mr. Caldwell's voice. He was talking to someone. "The old man has found out everything. We can't leave him alive. A car accident, yes, it has to look like an accident. His family, take care of all of them. Leave no one behind. And then, Rivas will be ours." A recorded confession from 25 years ago. An undeniable confession. At the same time, I opened the black leather-bound notebook. Inside were not only records of Rivas Jewelers' business transactions, but also short diary entries from my father. He wrote about his worry upon discovering Mr. Caldwell's conspiracy, his anxiety about feeling watched, and his infinite love for his wife and 2 young children. And on the last page, there was a line written hastily in a special ink, an ink visible only under ultraviolet light, a prudent habit of finance professionals. Liam and I knew it well. We quickly turned off the lights, and David shone a small UV flashlight he always carried onto the paper. The writing appeared. "All original evidence contracts, account statements are in the safe deposit box at the Swiss bank. Number XYZ. I have entrusted the key to Catherine. If anything happens to me, trust her. Catherine will know what to do." Everything became clear. Mom Catherine not only raised us but was the trusted person my father entrusted with the mission of protecting the most important evidence, the inheritance, and the future of his 2 children. The love and sacrifice our 2 mothers showed us were immense and grand. Tears welled up again, but this time they were tears of gratitude and pride. We now had in our hands the confession from the past, the clue to the decisive evidence stored in Switzerland, and Mr. Caldwell's current crimes. The plan for the final counterattack, the decisive battle, was about to begin. The net of heaven had been woven tightly. All that was left was for the biggest fish to fall into it himself. With irrefutable evidence in our hands, we knew the hour of final judgment was very near. But we were also aware that confronting a cunning old fox like Mr. Caldwell required not acting rashly. A small mistake could give him the opportunity to turn the tables and erase all traces. "We need a perfectly flawless plan," Liam said with a firm expression. "We have to hit him by surprise, without giving him time to react." The plan was drawn up with the participation of all three of us. Liam, with his position in the business world, would deliver the decisive blow in the commercial arena. David, with the support of his trusted colleagues, would handle the legal aspect to leave him no escape, and I would confront him directly, becoming the fuse for the bomb that was about to detonate. The first step was to resolve the matter in Switzerland. With the recording and the notebook as evidence, and the cooperation of the American police, Liam's lawyer friend quickly managed to convince the Swiss bank. They agreed to open the safe deposit box, but on the condition that I was present, and the process was carried out under the supervision of both parties. A week later, Liam and I were in Zurich, Switzerland. The bank vault was cold and silent. When the familiar metal box was placed on the table, my heart pounded again. Mom Catherine's key slid smoothly into the lock, and with a turn the box door clicked open. Inside there was no money or jewels, but a thick stack of documents carefully wrapped in plastic. They were all the originals of the ghost contracts, the bank statements recording the illicit money flows, and all the secret agreements Mr. the Pant Wallarday Caldwell had used to take over Rivas Jewelers. Each document bore his handwritten signature. This was the ultimate weapon, the final sword that could end that demon's career. With the lawyer present, we made copies of all the material and immediately sent them to David. Everything was ready. Upon our return to the United States, the atmosphere was tense. Mr. Caldwell, after the failed intrusion attempt at Aurelian Tower, seemed to have sensed the danger. He began to exhibit defensive behavior. The number of his bodyguards doubled, and all his meetings were strictly controlled. "He's trying to erase his tracks and move his assets," David reported in an emergency meeting. "We have to act before it's too late." D-Day was set. It was the day of the Aurelian Holdings annual general meeting, a major event that brought together all the management, major shareholders, and the media. It would be the perfect stage for us to end this play. That morning, I chose a deep red dress, a color symbolizing power and determination. Liam wore his usual elegant suit, but in his eyes was an unusually fierce determination. We attended not as competitors, but as guests of honor, a surprising move Liam had arranged beforehand through some shareholders favorable to the Miller Corporation. The convention center's auditorium was packed. Mr. Caldwell sat at the head of the stage, still maintaining an expression of confidence and authority. He was giving a passionate speech about Aurelian Holdings' achievements and its ambitious future plans, a perfect speech from a competent leader. When his speech ended to thunderous applause, Liam gave me a signal. "Now." "Excuse me," a voice boomed from the doorway. It was David, entering in uniform with an investigative team. "Mr. Richard Caldwell, CEO of Aurelian Holdings, we are here to execute an emergency arrest and search warrant in connection with charges of organized murder and misappropriation of assets." The entire hall was stunned, and all cameras instantly turned towards the stage. Mr. Caldwell leaped up, his face changing, but he tried to maintain his composure. "What are you talking about?" "There must be some mistake. I am an honest businessman." "There is no mistake, Mr. Caldwell," I raised my voice as I walked from the audience. All eyes turned back to me. "Or would you like me to remind you of the car accident that took place in the Rocky Mountains 25 years ago?" Hearing this, the composure on his face completely crumbled. He looked at me, and in his eyes were hatred and astonishment. Liam also stood up and went on stage. He held a stack of documents in his hand. "And also what you did to my father. The time has come for you to pay for all your crimes." Liam signaled to the technical crew, and on the giant screen behind Mr. Caldwell, instead of growth charts, images of documents, contracts, and bank statements appeared. At the same time, the recording of Mr. Caldwell's own voice, ordering the elimination of the entire Rivas family, echoed throughout the hall. Turn it off now." Mr. Caldwell roared like a wounded beast, running frantically towards the control panel, but it was too late. All the evidence had been revealed before hundreds of people, before the cameras of the entire country. David and his colleagues quickly moved in and put him in handcuffs. "Richard Caldwell, you are under arrest." The Aurelian Holdings empire, built on the blood and tears of others, collapsed in an instant. Standing on the stage, I watched as the enemy of two families was led away. I felt no jubilation, but a strange, light relief. Justice had finally been served. Mom, Dad, are you watching? We did it. Amidst it all, a woman ran out from the crowd and knelt at my feet, crying inconsolably. It was Mr. Caldwell's wife. Miss Chloe, please, forgive my husband. He was just too ambitious. I looked at the poor woman before me and then looked out the window. The sky was still blue, the sun was still warm, and life would go on. But there are mistakes that can never be forgiven. The case of Aurelian Holdings' collapse caused a huge shock, not only in the business world but throughout society. The crimes hidden for 25 years finally came to light. The media reported and analyzed day after day the cruelty and cunning of Mr. Caldwell. He went from being a successful entrepreneur, an example of self-made success, to the embodiment of evil in an instant. With irrefutable evidence, Mr. Caldwell was sentenced to the maximum penalty for his crimes. His accomplices, the subordinates who had helped him for years, were also brought to justice and received the punishment they deserved. After the trial, our lives gradually returned to normal. The Miller Corporation, after eliminating an unfair competitor, experienced spectacular development, becoming a company not only financially sound, but also respected for its business ethics. Liam, after avenging his father, seemed to have lifted a huge weight off his shoulders. He became more cheerful and open, spending more time with his small family. As for Rivas Jewelers, as the sole legitimate heirs, Liam and I decided not to keep it. It was stained with too much blood and tears. We decided to sell all the group's assets. A portion was used to compensate the victims and their families who had been harmed by Mr. Caldwell's illegal practices. The rest was used to create a charitable foundation called the Adrian and Catherine Foundation, a foundation to help orphans and women in difficult situations. It was the best way to honor and thank our two great mothers. A year after the major case was closed, I received a letter, not an email, but a handwritten letter from an address in France. The handwriting was much weaker, but I recognized it instantly. It was Mom Adrian's handwriting. My dearest children, Liam and Chloe, by the time you read this letter, Mom will be in a very distant place. From the explosion at the wedding to the final trial, Mom has seen everything. You were very brave and strong. Mom is very proud of you. I know you may never forgive the mother who abandoned you for decades, but I truly had no other choice. The death of long ago was the only way to protect you from the clutches of that demon. I had to live with torment, longing, and guilt, but knowing you were growing up safely under the love of my sister Catherine made all my sacrifice worthwhile. Now that the wicked man has paid for his crimes, the heavy burden on my heart can finally be released. I believe I can now go in peace and reunite with your father. Be happy, my children. Live a truly meaningful life in the name of your mother and father. I love you very much, Mom Adrian. Attached to the letter was my mother's death certificate. She had passed away just a few days after Mr. Caldwell's trial ended. Liam and I hugged each other and cried. They were tears of sadness, but also of understanding and peace. We could finally call her Mom with a peaceful heart. My life, after so many storms, finally found a quiet harbor. David and I decided to have a small, warm wedding in Napa Valley, where our love began. On the wedding day, instead of a luxurious wedding dress, I chose an elegant silk dress in a soft blush color, simple and pure. In my hand, instead of a bouquet, I held tightly to the hand of David, the man who had accompanied me through the most difficult times. Liam looked at me with a happy smile, his eyes shining with joy. Ava, in a beautiful princess dress, scattered rose petals on the path we walked. Amidst that warm atmosphere, we had a special guest. It was Mr. Paul, the former chauffeur. He brought us a small gift, an old photo of my biological parents in a simple wooden frame. "Miss, I wish you all the happiness," he said in a trembling voice. I accepted the gift with a heart full of emotion. The past was over, but the good memories and good feelings would last forever. That afternoon, as the sun set over the rolling hills of Napa, David and I stood side by side, looking at the distant horizon. A new chapter of life, a new life full of love and hope, was opening before us. I knew that from now on, no storm could knock me down, because by my side, there would always be people who loved me unconditionally. And I believe that somewhere high above, my three parents, my mothers and fathers, will be watching over us and blessing us with a smile.